Hello, my Batmaniacs. Never before an event like this happened in the comic books, and never will it happen again. In 1998, DC Comics did the unthinkable and destroyed the one thing Batman loved the most, Gotham. And then came the greatest Millennium event of all, No Man's Land. Today, our channel will dive into this 2-year-long magnum opus that culminated on the eve of the Millennium. So, without further ado, let's dive in, hold our breath, and try to survive. Before we begin, we have a small request. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. It's a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Chapter 1. Cataclysm. The Fury from Hell. On a night when a bunch of criminals in Gotham were being transported to Blackgate Prison, one convict named Morgan Tice narrated the story of how he critically beat up Batman during a heist. He divulged that he was doing jobs at 50 quids, but he aspired to become his own man. So, he got together the best crew in town along with the tech, planned out meticulously, and hit the mark. The heist was a walk in the park. They subdued the civilians and cut through the security as well. They collected their prize money and hit the road, when suddenly Batman intervened. He attacked his crew and toppled their car. But Morgan was one hard buster. He went berserk on the Dark Knight and beat him into a bloody pulp. Had the police not intervened, Morgan would have killed Batman. Finishing his story, he bet that Batman was somewhere on life support waking up to nightmares of Morgan. However, the truth was completely different. Morgan was a small-time crook and gathered few lowly inexperienced criminals like him and barely made out with their cut from the heist. While the police chased them, Batman attacked and toppled the car. Batman took care of the other thugs, and Morgan was beaten senseless by Robin. Walking down the pier towards Blackgate, Morgan was scared breathless by a bat flying by. The other criminals saw through his ruse and made a laughingstock out of him. But as fate would have it, another crisis loomed over Gotham. Jolene Relazzo, a scientist with Wayne Enterprises, uncovered a terrifying truth. The city was on the brink of a cataclysmic earthquake. Desperate to warn the authorities, Jolene called her superiors for help, but the call was left unanswered in the depths of the Batcave. Glass houses. In the depths of the Batcave, Batman's intense focus on tracking down the elusive criminal Billy Wildman was suddenly shattered by a cacophony of alarms. Seismic sensors screamed warnings as the very ground beneath Gotham convulsed in agony. The city was under siege from a monstrous earthquake, tearing through streets and buildings like a wrathful beast. Caught in the heart of the chaos, Wayne Manor crumbled, burying Batman and his loyal butler Alfred Pennyworth under tons of rubble. With every moment precious, Batman fought to free himself from the suffocating debris, his survival hanging by a thread as he navigated the treacherous labyrinth of destruction. Elsewhere, anarchy closed in on his target, Billy Wildman, only to find himself swept up in the devastation of the quake alongside Detective Harvey Bullock. Even in the ongoing turmoil, Bullock's unwavering sense of duty compelled him to pursue anarchy, even as the very ground beneath them threatened to swallow them whole. But as the gravity of the situation became clear, anarchy and Bullock joined forces to rescue the innocent lives caught in the quake's merciless grip. Meanwhile, in the fortified confines of Gotham Clock Tower, Oracle grappled with the aftermath of the disaster. Though the tower stood firm against the quake's fury, the city outside lay in ruins. With her system down and a heart heavy with dread, Oracle rallied the survivors, channeling her grief into action as she led them toward hope in surrounding devastation. In the wake of tragedy, Gotham's heroes were forged anew, their resolve tested as never before. For the darkest hour had come, and the only thing between them and ultimate doom was their courage and resilience. The destruction. The earthquake that had struck Gotham was a 7.6 in the Richter scale. It had struck 10 miles north of Gotham. The Neville section and Midtown was completely decimated, and the Westwood Bridge had collapsed, isolating the Tri-Corner area, and Highway 61 was destroyed. Phone lines and power were down throughout, and water supply was in danger. Dick Grayson, known also as Nightwing, was in Bloodhaven when he caught wind of the disaster unfolding in Gotham City. Without a second thought, he suited up in his Nightwing attire and hurried to his boat. His mission? To rush over and aid in the rescue efforts. Meanwhile, Tad Ryestad found himself in a different kind of struggle. He was determined to become a superhero, but the challenge he faced was finding a unique superhero name that hadn't already been claimed by someone else. Responding to a desperate call for help, Nightwing arrived at the scene to find several individuals in the bus trapped in an underground fissure beneath Highway 61. Among them were a mother and her son, Kenny. Faced with the grim reality of imminent danger, they feared they wouldn't all make it out before the floodwaters engulfed them. In a moment of selflessness, the mother insisted that Nightwing rescue her child first, while she stayed behind to assist the others. Nightwing swiftly sprang into action, ensuring the safety of everyone else before turning his attention back to the mother. As the fissure began to close, the mother pleaded with Nightwing to look after her son, but Nightwing had a plan. He directed her to swim to the front of the bus, where there was a larger opening. Then, with precision and strength, he shattered the front window and pulled the mother to safety just before the fissure sealed shut. Exhausted, yet fulfilled, Nightwing took a moment to appreciate the small victory before setting off to lend his aid wherever it was needed next. The Lifelines. As the earthquake rocked Gotham City, employees of Wayne Enterprises felt the tremors coursing through the building. Yet, unlike the surrounding structures that crumbled under the force of nature, theirs remained steadfast. Lucius Fox, with a sense of relief, revealed that all Wayne properties were meticulously engineered to withstand earthquakes of catastrophic magnitude, thanks to Bruce Wayne's foresight. In the destruction engulfing the city, towering skyscrapers succumbed to the quake's fury, claiming countless lives. Ruptured gas lines ignited infernos, adding to the devastation. In the heart of the turmoil, Gotham City Police Headquarters bore the brunt of the disaster. While Commissioner Gordon sent out a call for help, the bat signal collapsed, injuring and trapping Gordon under a heap of rubble. Meanwhile, under the crushed terrain that was once the Wayne Manor and the Batcave, Batman searched for Alfred, trying to make a path to rescue him just by following Alfred's voice. In a moment of unexpected heroism, Barbara Gordon, disregarding her lack of authority, seized command of the situation from a wheelchair. With a gunshot ringing out, she rallied the officers and embarked on a mission of rescue and restoration. Harvey Bullock, undeterred by a gruesome injury, stoically tended to himself and rescued Gordon. In the wreckage of Wayne Manor, the one property unable to withstand the quake's force due to its subterranean network, Batman emerged. With unstoppable determination, he rescued Alfred. With all the exits sealed, the only way to reach the surface was through the source of the floodwaters under the cave. Alfred warned Batman to return before his oxygen supply ended. Contemplating, Batman changed into his scuba gear and plunged into the treacherous waters. But right then, exactly at 8:32 p.m., a chilling aftershock rippled through Gotham. Old wounds. Azrael, having bested Bane in combat, secured him for transport back to Gotham City aboard a helicopter piloted by Nomos. The destination was Blackgate Penitentiary. However, Bane, ever the manipulator, tried to sway Azrael to his side, arguing that they shared a primal instinct, a savage drive that could grant them immense wealth, power, and influence if they joined forces. But Azrael didn't waver and remained resolute in his commitment to justice. As the helicopter descended for landing, Detective Bock and Inspector Sarah Essenson came forward to take Bane into custody. But just then, the city was rocked by the powerful earthquake, throwing their plans into disarray. In the chaos, Bane seized the opportunity to break free, and Azrael, driven by his duty, pursued him through the ruins of Gotham, through water, fire, and earth. Azrael's search led him to the vault of a bank, where Bane's violent rampage had left a trail of death in his wake. Bane tempted Azrael again with promises of wealth and glory, urging him to forsake his principles and embrace their shared darkness. He promised Azrael that they'd become legends in Gotham, kings. But Azrael stood firm, refusing to compromise his values even in the face of such tantalizing offers. A clash ensued as a series of aftershocks hit Gotham. Azrael proved himself the superior combatant, overpowering Bane and subduing him once more. With determination in his eyes, Azrael dragged the defeated villain back into the light of day, where justice awaited. Ties that bind. In the heart of Midtown, the earthquake struck with devastating force, reducing the once vibrant cultural arts center to a scene of unimaginable destruction. Tall buildings crumbled like dominoes, claiming countless lives in an instant, while fires raged unchecked, casting an ominous glow over the chaos that engulfed the city. In the turmoil, Huntress found herself trapped aboard a derailing subway train as the tremors shook the underground tunnels. In a terrifying turn of events, a deranged criminal seized control of the frightened passengers, his delusions driving him to believe he was the target of a conspiracy. In a desperate bid for power, he shot Huntress and another passenger who dared to defy him, before leading the group deeper into the darkened tunnels. Huntress, wounded but not defeated, seized an opportunity to break free from her captor's grasp. She bided her time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back and thwart the criminal's twisted plans. When an aftershock rocked the tunnels, fate intervened, trapping the would-be killer beneath a pile of rubble. Despite his pleas for mercy, Huntress, fueled by righteous anger, refused to aid him, leaving him to face his fate alone in the wreckage. Meanwhile, Renee Montoya, thrust unexpectedly into the chaos of looting and lawlessness, found herself forced to confront the darker side of humanity on what should have been a rare day off. Elsewhere, Batman struggled on a perilous journey through the underwater subterranean tunnels to return to his surface. With each stroke against the relentless current, he faced the grim reality of his compromised identity and the daunting task of rebuilding his shattered world. Emerging into the desolation of Gotham Harbor, he saw, for the first time, the devastation wrought upon his beloved city. A scream of anguish left his throat, witnessing the chaos around him. Responsibilities. In the bustling chaos of Buddingdale's, Catwoman seized an opportunity to acquire a pair of Wayne Tech binoculars, essential for her next heist. Swiftly maneuvering through the crowded 8th floor, she expertly slipped away through the ventilation ducts and into the elevator shaft. But as fate would have it, disaster struck in the form of the earthquake, sending the elevator plummeting below. Catwoman managed to escape from the freefall using a whip and barely clinging to life. Summoning her senses, Catwoman emerged from the wreckage and navigated through the debris-strewn floors. In the catastrophe surrounding her, she encountered a security guard aiding a wounded girl named Elise. The guard thought that Catwoman was responsible for the disaster and pointed his gun at her. Catwoman swiftly disarmed the guard and asserted her innocence, turning her attention to caring for Elise as the guard searched for other survivors. Catwoman wanted to get out of the building. She pretended not to care about anyone, but she stayed back to help Elise. She took a look outside using her binoculars and understood that it was a devastating earthquake. Tragically, Elise succumbed to her injuries, despite Catwoman trying hard to resuscitate her. Returning to aid the guard and the remaining survivors, Catwoman devised a daring escape plan. With the flames of destruction closing in, she utilized her whip to ferry them across to safety to the adjacent building, one by one. Perched atop a building among the destruction, Catwoman grappled with the weight of loss and destruction. In a poignant moment of reflection, she struggled with finding courage and making herself determined to aid the ones in distress. But she couldn't stop herself from breaking down into tears looking at the ruins of her beloved city. The homecoming. In the distant realm of Transbelvia, Tim Drake, aka Robin, and Darvis Sporsk faced a tense showdown with King Snake and his army. Robin, under the influence of the Aramilla drug, inadvertently took down Lady Shiva with his own hands. Threats escalated as King Snake, wielding his power, menaced both Robin and Darva, backed by a looming army at his command. With Lady Shiva's life hanging in the balance, Robin sprung into action, urging Darva to create a diversion while he attempted to revive their fallen ally. General Tvorikovich met an unexpected demise just beyond the shack's confines. Despite Robin's valiant efforts, his attempts at resuscitation of Lady Shiva proved futile until a miraculous revival jolted her back to life, fueled by the potent effects of the Aramilla drug coursing through her veins. With newfound vigor, Lady Shiva unleashed a fierce onslaught upon King Snake's forces, plunging the shack into a deadly melee. In the ensuing chaos, Darva suffered a gunshot wound, while Robin, realizing the gravity of the situation, escorted her to safety within the looming threat of Darva's army. Later, Tim struggled with his own inner turmoil as he embarked on a journey back to Gotham City, contemplating the revelation he was about to unveil to his father. However, fate intervened as their flight was diverted to Bloodhaven, unveiling a harrowing sight from above. Gotham City lay in ruins, consumed by flames of destruction. As the magnitude of the devastation sank in, Tim was bewildered to the core. Although his mind was already made up to confront the chaos that awaited him in his shattered hometown, he reveled in shock and sorrow. Dead man walking. In the heart of Blackgate Penitentiary, an inmate named Jared Manx faced the grim reality of his impending execution for the murders of a mother and her 2 children. As midnight approached, his lawyer and a nun arrived to offer solace in his final hours. Yet Jared adamantly proclaimed his innocence to deaf ears. Suddenly, chaos erupted as the earthquake rattled the prison, rupturing walls and flooding cells with a relentless tidal wave. In the turmoil, Jared's cell swung open, granting him an unexpected reprieve, the miraculous justice by the hand of God. Instead of fleeing, he selflessly aided his judge and the nun, ensuring their safety as water levels continued to rise. With Blackgate teetering on the brink of disaster, Jared daringly released other trapped inmates trapped in the submerged lower levels. Together, they embarked on a perilous ascent towards higher ground, only to face a new threat as prisoners in the tier above rebelled against their captors. As the chaos unfolded, a distress call managed to reach Barbara Gordon, who swiftly alerted Batman to the unfolding crisis. Racing to the scene, Batman confronted the chaos head-on, battling inmates and coordinating rescue efforts with arriving helicopters. As Jared attempted to shield his companions from danger, he found himself locked in a fierce struggle with KG Beast. With the timely intervention of Batman, Jared narrowly escaped his assailant, leading the women to safety. While Batman was fighting and trying to stop the upheaval until help arrived, KG Beast spotted Jared and his friends. He kicked an already broken beam and made a huge chunk of wall fall on them. Jared caught it in time, but it was pinned and couldn't move. In a final act of heroism, Jared sacrificed himself to save his companions. But before dying, he revealed that he was lying, and he was indeed the killer. He killed the lady and her 2 kids, and he was actually their father. He met his diresome fate as the walls crushed him. Batman managed to save the judge and the nun. However, hundreds of lives were lost. With the crisis at Blackgate contained, Batman turned his attention to the turmoil consuming Gotham City, ready to confront the chaos that awaited him. My city needs me. Batman's return to Gotham City after the chaos at Blackgate Prison was met with a profound sense of despair. The once vibrant city now lay in ruins, its streets strewn with debris and its buildings reduced to rubble. For Batman, who had dedicated his life to protecting Gotham, the devastation was a bitter blow. Everything that he's ever done was for the city, and now that city lay broken in front of him. He struggled with the realization that this disaster, unlike any he'd faced before, was beyond his control. Yet, true to his nature, he wasted no time in springing into action, determined to do whatever he could to aid in the rescue efforts. In the ongoing chaos, Batman swooped in as a beacon of hope, tirelessly pulling survivors from the wreckage and lending a hand wherever it was needed. Recognizing the need for organized assistance, he sought out an unlikely ally in the Penguin, leveraging his resources to bolster the relief efforts. Though initially motivated by self-preservation, the Penguin's cooperation proved invaluable in the face of Gotham's dire circumstances. Meanwhile, Tim Drake, who recently returned to Bloodhaven, was determined to make his way back to Gotham to lend his aid. Faced with blocked roads and limited options, he resorted to desperate measures, commandeering a motorcycle to hasten his return. Elsewhere, seismologist Jolene Ralazzo found herself in the clutches of ruthless kidnappers, their sinister motives tied to the catastrophic events she'd predicted. As Commissioner Gordon and Barbara Gordon coordinated rescue efforts from Gotham City Police Headquarters, they tried to cope with the grim reality of the situation, knowing that countless lives hung in the balance. The tension escalated with the sudden emergence of a new threat out of the blue, the Quake Master, who claimed responsibility for the earthquake and issued a chilling ultimatum. With the city's fate hanging in the balance, Batman and his allies geared up to confront this malevolent force before Gotham was plunged into further chaos and destruction. Hopes and heartbreaks. Sonny Epifani and his group of street thugs arrived to rescue a bunch of people who were trapped inside a building due to liquefaction during the quake. They were hired by the CEO of a big company and had to sign a contract that had a bunch of rules inscribed in it. They had to abide by all of it, or else they wouldn't get the money. While the thugs bickered amongst themselves and got through the differences to act together, they couldn't help but think that Batman was the person who coerced the CEO in creating the contract. They finally managed to save everyone trapped and lift their spirits. One of them even gave up his share of payment for the 8th rule mentioned in the contract, ascertaining to a kid that Batman had sent them for help. When Sonny pulled out the contract to see the 8th rule, it stated that there should be no action to bring down the spirits of the people being rescued, and it was signed by none other than Bruce Wayne. Meanwhile, from another corner of the world, Ra's al Ghul looked at Gotham through hidden cameras, sitting in his throne. He reveled in confidence and found it an irony that Batman now had to fight nature and everything that he ever fought for was lost. In Gotham, the Penguin started helping people and pulling them out of rubble, based on their job qualification and what favor they offered for being rescued. Robin helped a trapped kid inside a building but couldn't listen to the cries of a man trapped underneath the building. He left with the kid as the trapped man shouted for help from below. Two-Face let his men die when they tried to turn him in and collect the prize money. Somewhere from the ruins, Leslie Tompkins rescued little orphan Andy. The next day, a concerned Nightwing burst into the GCPD building, relieved to find Barbara Gordon safe and sound. She explained she was there to assist with rescue efforts using satellite uplink, despite her own quake-proof building. Their brief moment of relief was interrupted by Robin's unexpected arrival. Nightwing was surprised to see him as he thought Robin was still in Europe. Oracle and Robin exchanged greetings, both acknowledging it was their first meeting. Robin explained his presence, unable to reach Batman or the Batcave. Nightwing shared his concern, and they turned to Oracle for any news, but she hadn't heard from Batman either. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon discussed the dire situation with the fire chief, recognizing the danger posed by the compromised Davenport Center. They were thankful the earthquake struck before showtime, sparing the theaters from being full. As they discussed evacuation plans, Detective Hawk emerged. Gordon failed to recognize him at first, and it was revealed to be Batman in disguise. Nightwing and Robin navigated the city using one of Bruce's vehicles, assessing the damage. They visited Wayne Manor, only to find it mostly collapsed into the cave below. Oracle suggested Bruce may no longer be concerned about his secret identity. Disguised as Detective Hawk, Batman narrowly rescued the last person before the Davenport Center collapsed entirely. Robin, worried about his father, rushed to check on him and found him safe. He hugged his father like his life depended on it. Meanwhile, Nightwing descended into the cave, finding Harold and Alfred unharmed, but still no sign of Bruce since his departure through the subterranean stream. Conspiracies. The Gotham City Police Department, after viewing Quakemaster's threatening video, decided to comply with his demands to prevent another catastrophic earthquake. Meanwhile, Batman, observing from a distance, opted to verify the legitimacy of the threat by consulting a seismologist. He sought out Jolene Ralazzo, only to discover her apartment deserted and showing signs of violence, leading him to suspect her involvement in the situation. At Quakemaster's lair, Jolene found herself held captive, pressured to provide convincing information under threat of peril. Bruce Wayne delved into Wayne Enterprises records, uncovering Jolene's reputable character and her association with the city and his company. Concerned for her safety, he concluded she'd been abducted by Quakemaster's associates. Teaming up with Commissioner Gordon, Batman devised a plan to apprehend Quakemaster. They arranged a ransom drop, with Batman covertly infiltrating the exchange. After a tense confrontation, Batman interrogated the henchmen, but they remained clueless about their boss's identity. Despite their struggle, someone snatched the ransom money, prompting Batman to coerce the henchmen into leading him to Quakemaster's last known location. Meanwhile, Renee Montoya and Harvey Bullock analyzed the ransom video. Recognizing the GCTV news set in the background, they hastened to the location, only to find Batman already investigating. With Batman's intervention, they took custody of the henchmen. Returning to the Batcave, Batman shared his findings with Nightwing, Robin, Alfred, and Harrow. Upon reviewing the tape, Batman discerned inaccuracies, realizing the seismic information was fabricated. Although the Bat family felt less anxious about another Quake, Batman remained troubled by Jolene Relasso's perilous predicament at the hands of Quakemaster. Number 14. Girl Power. Stephanie Brown found herself caught in the chaos of Westerberg Mall when Gotham City was rocked by a powerful 7.0 earthquake. In a moment of quick thinking, she shoved her date, Dean, to safety just as an elevator came crashing down nearby. Despite the terrifying ordeal lasting only 15 seconds, its impact was immense. Instead of expressing gratitude, Dean's mind seemed preoccupied with his borrowed car, leaving Stephanie to tend to the aftermath alone. Determined to help, Stephanie stayed behind. Meanwhile, at Blackgate Penitentiary, Cluemaster orchestrated a daring jailbreak, liberating several dangerous criminals. Led by Cluemaster, the escaped convicts navigated the way through perilous terrain, encountering resistance from Ernie Chubb, who challenged Cluemaster's authority. The situation escalated until Monsoon intervened, settling the dispute and solidifying Cluemaster's leadership. With a plan in mind, they sought refuge in the nearby Westerberg Mall, despite reservations from Ratcatcher about the potential risks. Inside the mall, Stephanie witnessed a mix of altruism and opportunism among survivors. Donning her spoiler persona, she confronted looters, ensuring the safety of others. She rescued a toddler named Kimmy, narrowly escaping danger herself. It was then that Huntress arrived, offering aid and revealing she'd been tracking the escaped convicts. As chaos fired up within the mall, with Firefly causing havoc, Stephanie and Huntress stepped in. Despite tensions and confrontations, including a dangerous encounter with Firefly, they managed to maintain some semblance of order. However, the situation grew more precarious as Cluemaster and his cohorts made a move for the mall's depository. Stephanie found herself in a standoff with Cluemaster and his group, revealing that Cluemaster was actually her father. Despite the tension, a temporary alliance formed between Stephanie and Cluemaster against the other convicts. In the midst of the chaos, Stephanie confronted her father, leading to a hot exchange. Stephanie wanted to turn Cluemaster in, but he pointed out that the Huntress took no prisoners. She always dealt out death as a punishment. Hearing that, Stephanie let him escape and resolved to seek medical aid for Huntress's injuries. Allies at work, Batman and Nightwing were fully immersed in the rescue efforts across Gotham City, aiding those trapped in the aftermath of the devastating earthquake. Elsewhere, Robin and Alfred delved into deciphering the Quakemaster's cryptic messages and discovered that his choice of spoken words were very weird. Jolene Realasso, held captive by the Quakemaster, could only cling to the hope that someone would decipher the clues she'd surreptitiously embedded in the villain's messages. During their rescue mission, Batman and Nightwing encountered Huntress engaged in combat with a group of thugs. Urging her to cease her violent methods, they joined forces to free people trapped under debris. However, Huntress, disapproving of their leniency toward criminals, departed, unwilling to collaborate with what she perceived as a soft approach. Meanwhile, Robin assisted the Gotham City Police Department in deciphering the Quakemaster's messages. Working alongside Barbara Gordon and Mackenzie Buck, they uncovered a hidden address within the cryptic texts. As Buck ventured to the identified location, Bullock and Montoya interrogated captured thugs for leads. Discovering a potential accomplice, they hastened to investigate the newfound lead. Robin, employing his keen deductive skills, discerned a pattern in the Quakemaster's language, leading him to deduce the villain's true identity. Setting off to confront the Quakemaster, he raced against time to prevent further chaos. At Gotham City Hall, Mayor Marion Grange and Commissioner Gordon deliberated on the city's plight when armed intruders stormed in, demanding the Quakemaster's ransom. With Gotham in peril, Batman directed Nightwing to investigate the City Hall disturbance while he continued aiding the earthquake victims. Robin, aware of the imminent danger, rushed to intervene as Bullock, Montoya, and Mackenzie Buck found themselves ensnared in a perilous hostage situation. Actions and reactions. Catwoman prowled the desolate streets of Gotham City, her keen eyes scanning for any signs of trouble. She stumbled upon the Wayne Tech building, where an unexpected encounter awaited her. Poison Ivy, accompanied by a scientist, was executing her nefarious plans, spreading her potent fertilizer throughout the city. Preferring not to get involved, Catwoman attempted to slip away, unnoticed. However, Ivy's sinister intentions soon became apparent when she killed the scientist with a poisonous kiss, determined to confront Ivy. Catwoman found herself caught by the villain's verdant vines, though she managed to break free just in time to see Ivy vanish. Outside the GCPD headquarters, Ivy conjured a towering tree with her botanical powers. Despite the valiant efforts of Harvey Bullock and his team, they struggled to contain Ivy's rampant growth. Catwoman stepped in, temporarily halting Ivy's plans, but ultimately unable to prevent her escape. Returning to the Wayne Tech building, Catwoman scoured for clues to anticipate Ivy's next move. Discovering Ivy's plan to distribute her fertilizer citywide, Catwoman decided to stop her. She correctly deduced Ivy's target at Reservoir Park, arriving just in time to confront her. A high-tension showdown ensued, with Catwoman narrowly preventing Ivy from releasing her hyper seeds into the water. In a desperate struggle, Catwoman threw the hyper seeds at Ivy's face. The vine started growing out of her body, but even in that pain, Ivy denied to stop the growth of her plants and destroy them. As Ivy begged for mercy, Catwoman made the difficult decision to deliver her to the authorities. Mad world. Among the chaos of the earthquake, Killer Croc found an opportunity for freedom when his cell was left open during a routine feeding. Seizing the chance, he struck down a guard, sending the others fleeing in terror. Meanwhile, the diabolical Joker, ever the mastermind of mayhem, reached out to Croc, urging him to seize the keys and set him loose. With the Joker's freedom, a motley crew of dangerous inmates, including Scarecrow, Riddler, Vox, and Samantha, were unleashed upon the asylum. They killed one guard and took the other hostage. Then they devised a twisted game, each sharing their own terrifying tale with the remaining guard, Greg. Greg had to decide which story frightened him the most, and that storyteller would get the chance to kill him. Vox told her story about a little girl who killed her brother trying to copy her abusive mom and dad. Riddler told a fictional tale of how Batman dressed up as Guru Rishi and thwarted his plans. Croc told a story about how he fed a spectator to the Crocs when he claimed that his Croc fights were a ruse. Samantha narrated the story about how she was burned at the pier, being falsely accused of being a witch, and held Greg as one of the spectators who watched her burn. With every story, Greg's grip on reality slipped further. Scarecrow narrated a story about the devil spreading fear in a family, so much that the family destroyed itself from within. As the mayhem continued, it was the Joker's turn to spin his sinister yarn, weaving a tale of how he brutally stabbed and killed Batman and Robin. The chilling narrative left Greg paralyzed with fear, unable to choose the most terrifying tale. As power was restored and order returned, the full extent of the horror within Arkham was revealed. Guards, including Greg's fellow officer, lay dead, and Shiraxis were subdued. Later, the true horror awaited Greg's fiancée, who discovered him confined within the asylum, scarred and broken, a tragic victim of the inmates' twisted games. In the end, Greg became known as the Jigsaw Man, a haunting reminder of the terrors lurking within Arkham's walls. Condemned to spend his days in madness and torment, he was a tragic causality of Gotham's darkest corners. Cataclysmic conclusion. In the heart of Gotham's turmoil, Quakemaster's grip tightened as he held Mackenzie Bok hostage. But when Renee Montoya, Harvey Bullock, and Robin closed in on his hideout, the stakes skyrocketed. Quakemaster's goons, armed and dangerous, demanded the officers to surrender their weapons. But Robin challenged Quakemaster to speak his name, a name the villain refused to utter. In a tense standoff, Bok seized a moment of opportunity, using his chair to subdue his captors, enabling Montoya and Bullock to take action. With Bok freed, the team split up. Montoya and Bullock set out to locate Jolene Relazzo, while Robin and Bok pursued Quakemaster. The confrontation took a surprising turn when they discovered that Quakemaster was merely a pawn, controlled by the puppet master Arnold Wesker, also known as the Ventriloquist. As the chase intensified, Wesker unleashed Scarface, his puppet alter ego, in a desperate bid to escape. During the fight, Bok made a risky move, aiming to halt Wesker's flight. Robin feared the worst, but a well-aimed shot shattered Scarface, bringing Wesker to his knees. In the aftermath, Wesker pleaded for aid for his fallen puppet, while Bok and Robin closed in, ensuring justice was served. Quakemaster's claims of causing the earthquake was all a lie. He just tried to cash in on the natural disaster. Elsewhere, Gotham's Dark Protector Batman answered the call of a faithful canine, leading him to a scene of peril. Risking life and limb, Batman saved the trapped souls, a hero, even in the face of personal injury. Nightwing swooped into action at City Hall, thwarting Wesker's henchmen and averting further catastrophe. In the chaos, Oracle reached out, seeking news from Wayne Manor's ruins. With Quakemaster in custody, a sense of relief washed over the vigilantes, though the scars of the earthquake's devastation remained. Together, Batman, Robin, and Nightwing surveyed the city's wreckage, grateful that for now, the worst had passed. But in Gotham, the calm was always fleeting, and they stood ready for whatever darkness lay ahead. Chapter 2. Aftershock, Death by Choice. In the chaos of Gotham's post-earthquake aftermath, Batman found himself in a race against time and villains. His first mission? saving a desperate man from leaping off a building. With his trusty bat rope, he swiftly restrained the would-be jumper, leaving him secure until he could return to offer aid. But within the rubble, Batman stumbled upon a chilling discovery: a frozen body encased in ice, the handiwork of the notorious Mr. Freeze. Determined, Batman followed the trail of cold left by the villain. Meanwhile, Clayface also emerged from the depths with newfound fiery powers, thirsting for vengeance against Batman. As Batman confronted Mr. Freeze in a shattered movie theater, a high-octane battle ensued, with Batman ultimately triumphing over the icy villain. Yet, before Batman could free the man he saved, Clayface struck, overpowering the Dark Knight with fire. In a desperate moment, Batman relied on Mr. Freeze, warning him of the imminent danger from the heat. With a stroke of irony, Freeze's ego saved the day as he turned his cold weapon against Clayface. But Clayface fought back ferociously, destroying Freeze's suit. With a stroke of ingenuity, Batman used the distraction to his advantage, trapping Clayface beneath a falling billboard. In the aftermath, Batman extended a hand to the once despondent man. The man who wanted to end himself now saw a newfound appreciation for life, witnessing the heroics before him. Sometimes, facing death could illuminate the value of life. Death out of nowhere. 3 months had passed since the tragic accident that left Walter Smith's son quadriplegic and mute. As if fate hadn't dealt him enough hardship, Walter found himself entangled with gangsters demanding protection money for his business. Their violent demands left him bruised and shaken, while an unwanted advance from his employee Julie added to his distress. Returning home, Walter faced another challenge as his wife confronted him about his bruises and the telltale lipstick on his clothes. Their daughter interrupted with news of beautiful lights outside. To their astonishment, their son, Keith, who hadn't spoken in 3 months, uttered his first words at the sight of the mesmerizing lights. Joy overwhelmed the family as they celebrated this miraculous breakthrough. But as they gathered in the dining room, tragedy struck. An earthquake tore through their home, shattering their world in an instant. The ground split open, swallowing their house and sealing their fate. Despite his efforts, Walter couldn't save his son, and he had to relive the heartbreak of the past once again. Death in the subway. In the heart of Gotham, Batman and Robin embarked on a daring mission to rescue people trapped in a subway station. They navigated their way into the depths of the Batcave to access the Bat Subway rocket, their means of reaching the stranded commuters. Meanwhile, nearby, the Ratcatcher scoured the subway tunnels, determined to save as many trapped rats as possible. As Batman and Robin breached the collapsed section of the subway, they employed an explosive charge to clear a path. A sudden blast alerted the Ratcatcher to their presence, prompting him to investigate. With the trapped civilians in sight, Batman and Robin rushed to their aid, guiding them to safety. But their efforts were thwarted when the Ratcatcher jumped in, refusing to let them escape, for he wanted retribution for once working as an exterminator and wanted human lives in return for the rats. Utilizing his whistle, he summoned a horde of rats, causing chaos atop a subway train. Tragically, the overloaded vehicle collapsed, sealing off their exit. In a desperate bid to stop the Ratcatcher's deadly rampage, Batman distracted him while Robin moved in for a decisive strike. Yet, before they could apprehend him, the Ratcatcher released cyanide gas, endangering everyone in the vicinity. With swift action, Batman disarmed the villain, forcing him to lead them to safety. Emerging from the darkness, the rescued civilians were whisked away to hospitals and care centers, while the Ratcatcher was placed in police custody, destined to face justice within the confines of the GCPD headquarters. Hopeful. In the rubble of Gotham City's ruins, a little girl stood, lost and alone, her tear-streaked face a beacon of desperation. Moved by compassion, Robin stepped forward, offering to help her find her mother. She said that her name was Jayreen Gibbert. With a gentle hand, he guided her to the safety of the police station, where the girl recounted her story. Her man was lured away by a man named Shaky, leaving her abandoned and adrift. Robin wasted no time in relaying this information to Batman, who connected the dots to the notorious Penguin who knew about Shaky Reardon. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon's worries over his wife Sarah were assuaged when she called. Her voice was a lifeline in the chaos, promising her safe return via the U.S. Army rescue operation. Determined to track down Shaky and the missing mother, Robin confronted the Penguin, who begrudgingly revealed their location. Racing against time, Robin arrived at the scene, only to find the woman callously indifferent to her daughter's plight, willing to abandon her for a chance at escape. However, she inquired about the doll that Jayreen carried. Robin blatantly lied that there was no doll. Returning to the police station, Robin searched the girl's rag doll, uncovering a shocking discovery: a hidden stash of money. With Renee Montoya's help, Robin made arrangements for Jayreen to stay with her grandparents, who were honest folks and were happy to have her. He also made sure that the funds from the doll were used for the girl's welfare, securing a brighter future in the darkness of Gotham's streets. A man-eat-man city. As Batman continued his tireless efforts to rescue the people of Gotham City, his keen vigilance led him to an armed robbery in progress. He prevented the thugs from carrying out their deadly intentions and ensuring the safety of the victims. With one crisis averted, Batman turned his attention to the Gotham Millennium Dome, where Ralph Jones and his friends, a group of high society individuals, had been trapped for 2 grueling weeks. Stranded and starving, desperation clouded their judgment as they made a chilling decision to sacrifice one of their own and use him for their sustenance. They drew straws, and one man was chosen. The unfortunate one, David, faced his fate with a bottle of brandy in hand and a final farewell written on paper. As Batman approached the towering structure, disaster struck in the form of a vicious vulture attack, sending him tumbling into the debris below. He realized the added danger posed by escaped zoo animals from Ralph's private zoo. An escaped Black Panther attack. In a fierce encounter, Batman was able to defeat the Panther before resuming his climb to reach the trapped individuals. Meanwhile, David, driven to desperation by the prospect of his impending sacrifice, lashed out in a drunken frenzy, killing one person among their ranks with a broken bottle of brandy. As tensions reached a breaking point, Batman emerged at the elevator, offering a glimmer of hope. With resolve in his voice, he vowed to lead them to safety. Guiding the shaken survivors to freedom, Batman learnt that the trapped had resorted to cannibalism for survival. They'd already killed Ralph Jones and used him for sustenance. He went into a whirlwind of emotions, his heart heavy with what his beloved city had become. In search of love, Tim Drake set out to find his girlfriend Ariana in her neighborhood, only to discover the entire borough evacuated to the high school gym due to the earthquake and gas leaks. With the National Guard overseeing the area, he reluctantly turned back home, where repairmen hired by his father were supposed to be at work. Despite his suspicions that his father had been scammed, Tim chose to keep silent. Under the cover of night, Tim donned his Robin costume and headed to the high school, hoping to check on Ariana. Relief washed over him when he spotted her among the crowd. However, his attention was soon diverted by the sound of Stephanie nearby. Using a batarang to catch her eye, they met outside, where Stephanie pleaded for Robin to retrieve her spoiler costume from her looted house. Reluctantly agreeing, Robin stealthily evaded the soldiers guarding the area and entered Stephanie's home, only to be confronted by Arthur Brown, alias the Clue Master. Armed and dangerous, Brown hadn't only looted the house but had also stolen the spoiler costume. In the gunfire from approaching soldiers, a struggle ensued, leading to a chaotic escape in a nearby budget pool. Managing to snatch the costume, Robin fled the scene, later taking retribution on the men who had scammed his father before returning to the high school. Though he had the costume in his possession, he decided to hold onto it for the time being. He wanted to bid Ariana a final farewell before heading home. The following morning, Tim returned some of the retrieved money to his father, passing it off as a refund from the repairman, while donating the rest to a quake relief fund. As he stepped outside, he was surprised to find Ariana waiting for him, leading to an unexpected adventure in the Redbird car, unaware of the costume tucked away in the back seat. The many faces of Gotham. Bruce Wayne and Tim Drake rolled up the sleeves, ready to tackle the daunting task of clearing the debris from the Batcave. As they worked, they reflected on the discussion of dissolving the Batman persona and working full-time as Bruce Wayne for the betterment of Gotham. Their efforts were soon joined by Dick Grayson and Alfred, descending from Wayne Manor to lend a hand after fencing off the collapsed area of the manor. Alfred suggested a plan to erase all evidence of the Batcave, allowing them to seek help for repairing the manor without risking exposure of their secret identities. Grateful for their support, Batman thanked them all before heading out to assist Gotham City. Meanwhile, at Gotham's first federal bank, a rescue operation was underway to save 3 trapped men inside the vault. Batman slipped in unnoticed, swiftly descending into the depths to confront the trapped thieves, recognizing them as escapees from Blackgate Prison. Despite their feeble attempts to attack him, Batman effortlessly subdued them and handed them over to the awaiting police. Later, Bruce Wayne checked in on Wayne Tower to oversee the company's contributions to the rescue efforts and city services. Satisfied with their efforts, he encouraged Jolene Relazzo and Lucius Fox to continue their good work while he ventured out to attend Gotham's nightlife. Arriving at another rescue operation, Batman found the Gotham City Police Department struggling to convince an elderly man to evacuate an unstable building. With quick thinking and decisive action, Batman managed to save the man just as the building collapsed, leaving him grateful and filled with newfound hope. As dawn broke, Bruce made a visit to Vesper Fairchild at a radio station, escorting her home. Along the way, they discussed the city's plight and the importance of each individual's contribution to its recovery. With a final message of encouragement, Bruce urged Vesper not to lose hope, reminding her of Gotham's irrepressible spirit that deserved to rise from the ashes. Survival of the luckiest. As Batman made his way to deliver an anti-cholera vaccine to a rescue station at Kearney Street, the city's sewage pipes had burst. Diseases were imminent, and this wasn't a time for a pandemic. But his path intersected with a group of looters causing chaos in the city. Swiftly, he apprehended the criminals, but one managed to slip away, darting towards the ruins of Gotham University. Without hesitation, Batman pursued, venturing into the crumbling remains of the once grand institution. Inside, he stumbled upon a harrowing scene. A lone professor, armed and deranged, held him and the escaping looter captive in a nightmarish classroom filled with the lifeless bodies of students. Driven mad by his survival in the surrounding tragedy, the professor clung to a twisted theory of luck. He believed Darwin was wrong. The fittest didn't survive, the luckiest did. Catastrophism was the secret of evolution. He was determined to use Batman and the Looter as subjects to prove his delusions. Forced to comply under threat of the Looter's demise, Batman navigated a perilous path along a precarious girder, risking his own safety to save another. But the Looter seized a moment of opportunity, striking out against the Professor and sending him plummeting into the abyss below. In a desperate attempt to rescue both men, Batman leapt into action, but the collapsing building claimed the Looter's life, leaving him crushed beneath the debris. Later, Batman subdued the deranged Professor and delivered him to the rescue station, where Inspector Bock awaited with the much-needed vaccine. Sharing the tale of the Professor's descent into madness, Batman asked Bock to get psychological care for the Professor. In his heart, Batman acknowledged that survival in Gotham often defied simple definitions of fitness or luck. In Gotham, only survivors survived. Best bangs for fair bucks. A group of shady characters enlisted the services of Kelvin Mao, also known as Ballistic, a cop-turned-superhero hired gun, to retrieve some dubious evidence from the chaos of Sector 7 in Gotham City. Despite his reservations, Ballistic agreed to the job, with a firm promise to act in accordance with his moral compass. However, when they perceived him as a threat, they attempted to eliminate him, only to find that their bullets had no effect on him. With his fee secured, Ballistic set off for Gotham. In Sector 7, Batman came to the aid of a National Guardsman under attack, just as Ballistic arrived to lend a hand in thwarting the assailants. Despite their initial tension, Batman and Ballistic formed an unlikely alliance, united in their mission to rid the sector of hired thugs and recover the questionable evidence. Together, they tore through their adversaries like a force of nature, clearing a path to the target building. Upon reaching their destination, they discovered the evidence, a case filled with illicit drugs. Without hesitation, Ballistic took action, disposing of the drugs in a display of defiance against the criminal underworld. Turning to Batman, Ballistic revealed his intention to track down those who hired him and deliver them to the authorities, extending an invitation for Batman to join him. However, Batman turned him down, ascertaining that his commitment belonged to his city. Hearing this, Ballistic bid him goodbye. Faith. It was night in Midtown Gotham. Batman and Nightwing stopped two assailants from looting copper fixtures from a building. Just then, Nightwing pointed out at the people gathering up at the church, the only beacon of faith in the fallen city. Later, Bruce visited Lucius and Miss Winowski about a memorial statue, but stopped them from going forward as he thought the statue commemorated failure and victimhood. Commissioner Gordon shared a moment with his daughter Barbara, assuring her that she could finally return home as order began to slowly return to Gotham. Despite Mayor Granger's efforts to secure aid from neighboring cities, she faced the harsh reality that none were willing to lend assistance to Gotham in its time of need. Meanwhile, the affluent Devlin Davenport displayed selfish behavior, obstructing rescue efforts on Van Meer Boulevard due to concerns over his property, a collapsed building impeding traffic. He went so far as to threaten legal action against the city. That night, Batman took matters into his own hands, using a large truck to clear a path through the Davenport building, facilitating rescue operations and supply deliveries. Devlin wasn't happy about it. Later, Bruce paid a visit to his parents' graves, where he reaffirmed his vow to protect Gotham. Yet, he struggled with the realization that, despite his best efforts, he was only human and sometimes fell short of fulfilling his promises. As he departed the gravesite, he sought forgiveness from his parents for his perceived failures. Corporate abandonment. In the ruins of Gotham City, the villain named Narcosis roamed the streets and put random people in a state of bliss and calm. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne came back from helping the quake victims and started listening to a tape from Lucius Fox about an important meeting the next day. The next morning, Alfred selected an executive, James Nairn, from one of the quake shelters, and together they went to one of the Wayne Corps buildings, where representatives from all the major Gotham stakeholder companies had gathered. They wanted to pull their operations out of Gotham. Bruce, Lucius, and Nairn tried to reason with them and show them the picture of what would happen to Gotham if there was no business or work in Gotham. The people in Gotham and the city itself would slowly die off. Even Jolene tried to appeal to them that an earthquake like this is unlikely to happen again. They tried their best to make the stakeholders rethink their decision, as they were Gotham's last hope of survival. But all of their efforts fell flat as the other stakeholders were pretty firm on their decision. After they left, Nairn pitched an idea to Bruce about financing a handful of small independent companies in Gotham that would help create a few successful business units. Bruce liked the pitch and asked Lucius to look into it. Meanwhile, in some other corner of the city, the Mad Hatter unearthed a stash of mind-controlling hats, where he met Narcosis. An evil thought of joining forces with Narcosis and wreaking havoc on Gotham solidified in his mind. Evil bliss. The Mad Hatter struck a deal with Narcosis, offering his assistance in flooding Gotham City with dream gas. In exchange, Narcosis agreed to relinquish his shroud to the Mad Hatter. Together, they'd set out to unleash their mind-altering gas across the city. Meanwhile, Batman was hot on Narcosis' trail. Seeking guidance from Oracle, Batman investigated potential locations where Narcosis might be hiding. After ruling out Gotham's hospital ruins, Batman followed a lead provided by Oracle. At the Quake shelter, James Nairn and the residents celebrated the news of Wayne Enterprises' support, eagerly anticipating the opportunity to rebuild their lives. However, they wondered why Bruce Wayne was conspicuously absent from the festivities. As the Mad Hatter and Narcosis raided a chemical plant for the necessary ingredients to concoct their dream gas, tensions rose between them. The Mad Hatter proposed a ransom scheme to profit from their actions, but Narcosis remained steadfast in his altruistic mission to bring bliss to the suffering people. Enraged by Narcosis' refusal, the Mad Hatter betrayed him, unleashing his henchmen upon him. He knocked out Narcosis and took his shroud. Arriving at the scene, Batman was met with the billowing gas from the plant's chimney. Swiftly, he destroyed the chimney with a missile and sprang into action to apprehend the criminals responsible. Meanwhile, Oracle dispatched the police to utilize a helicopter in dispersing the already released gas. In a fierce showdown, Batman confronted the Mad Hatter and Narcosis. Despite their resistance, Batman overpowered them, incapacitating Narcosis and subduing the Mad Hatter. However, in the chaos, Hatter fired at a butane gas tank, resulting in a devastating explosion that claimed Narcosis' life along with the Mad Hatter's henchmen. Utilizing a flare gun and fuel vapor, the helicopter burned away the dispersed dream gas, creating a vibrant display in the sky. As the dust settled, Batman assured Hatter that he was going in for a long time. The Grim Gentlemen of Wayne Manor. A band of seasoned thieves had set their sights on Wayne Manor, capitalizing on its weakened security and the devastation that had befallen the once grand estate. Under cover of darkness on the night of July 3rd, the four intruders approached the manor armed with guns and night vision goggles. With the manor seemingly empty, save for the slumbering Alfred Pennyworth, the thieves made their move, breaching the once impregnable fortress. Alfred, roused from his sleep by the intruders, swiftly attempted to alert Bruce Wayne using a radio transmitter. However, his efforts were thwarted when one of the thieves discovered him and destroyed the communication device. In a daring move, Alfred managed to incapacitate one of the intruders, seizing his attire to masquerade as one of their own. As the chaos unfolded, Alfred confronted the second thief, utilizing his cunning and resourcefulness to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, the third thief, alerted to the disturbance, began his search for the elusive butler. Cornered by the pursuit, Alfred recalled a cache of fireworks stored within the manor's vaults. With a stroke of ingenuity, he employed the fireworks to disorient the thief, using the dazzling display to his advantage. As the explosive spectacle lit up the night sky, bringing hope and joy to the onlookers, unaware of the turmoil within the manor, Alfred pressed on, systematically neutralizing the remaining members of the criminal gang. He intercepted their leader, who sought to breach the sanctity of the Batcave. Acting swiftly, he subdued the would-be invader, ensuring the safety of Wayne Manor and its secrets. With the threat neutralized, Alfred summoned the authorities to take the apprehended criminals into custody. As dawn broke, Bruce Wayne returned to the manor, greeted by Alfred and a lucrative breakfast, unaware of the dramatic events that had transpired in the darkness of the night. The Holy Hunter of Skidmore. In the ruins of Gotham, a bus containing 6 kids and the driver Sam Milligan went missing. Huntress got their lead as the Leventhal twins were also traveling in that bus to be reunited with their parents. She questioned Stuck Stavro and learned that the bus was spotted at Skidmore, an area which had already fallen to the criminal lawless even before the quake hit Gotham. Sneaking into Skidmore, she spotted the bus and found Haley Leventhal's beanie in it. Spotting a slaughterhouse nearby, she went in, only to find small dogs and cats caged and bellowing for life. Just then, she was attacked by a person calling herself Luckiest. She learned from him that he and his master Hug ate those animals. She quickly incapacitated him and goes further inside to find Haley and the other children alive, but tied and dangling from the meat hooks. A wave of fear and rage settled over her. She assured Haley that she was going to rescue her, but Hug attacked her from behind. Hug initially overpowered Huntress, but she managed to break free and wound him. Then she went berserk on him and almost killed Hug, but Haley begged her to stop. Huntress got her senses back, tied up Hug and called the police. She made a bonfire and stayed with the kids until help arrived. When Haley thanked Huntress, she thanked Haley in return for saving her from becoming a monster. Broken City. As Vesper Fairchild continued her radio broadcast, she narrated the mass exodus from Gotham City, with people fleeing by any means possible. Commissioner Gordon scrambled to gather all available police officers to aid the city, but found most were also departing. Batman and Robin stepped forward, offering their assistance. Upon learning of a siege at Mercy Hospital with only 2 officers present, Renee Montoya and Harvey Bullock, the dynamic duo rushed to the scene without hesitation. At Mercy Hospital, the notorious street gang The Bones sought to plunder the medical supplies. Montoya and Bullock attempted to hold them off, but with overwhelming numbers, the gang gained confidence. Bullock and Montoya, along with hospital staff, hastily moved patients to safety as the gang escalated their violence. Batman and Robin arrived just in time to intercept some of the thugs. However, a couple of intruders slipped in unnoticed via the roof. Spotting the gang massing at the hospital's front entrance, Batman predicted their move. True to his anticipation, the gang smashed a truck through the main doors. Bullock and a nurse confronted the rooftop intruders before regrouping at the main entrance. As the gang threatened the doctors for drugs, Batman and Robin burst in, engaging in an intense battle. With Montoya's assistance, they swiftly incapacitated the gang members. When the cloud of crisis cleared, Batman, Robin, and Commissioner Gordon witnessed the city's continued decline with heavy hearts, feeling powerless against the crumbling chaos. Vesper Fairchild's voice offered a somber reminder to those fleeing the city to stay safe and tread their path carefully, as the South Gotham Bridge had taken a lot of structural damage from the earthquake. As countless individuals traversed the weakened structure, it collapsed under the weight. The South Gotham Bridge fell down, and while bidding goodbye, it claimed thousands of lives. With a sense of despair, Batman, Robin, and Commissioner Gordon watched their beloved city succumb to destruction in a sense of helplessness. Old friends. Nightwing found himself lost in memories of the past, reminiscing about the days when he and Bruce Wayne, as Batman and Robin, fought crime together as the legendary dynamic duo. However, the present reality was starkly different and much grimmer. Now, Nightwing and Batman patrolled the desolate ruins of Gotham City, focusing on preventing violence among the remaining inhabitants rather than battling traditional crime. Together, they broke up a mob fight that started a fight over water by spraying a mixture of turpentine, guano, and dye. They both sensed the impending demise of the city, observing its dwindling population as people fled while they still could. Power was out in half of the city, clean water was rationed, there were fires all around, 1 million homeless or dead, and a skeleton police force barely held off the chaos. Conversations with Lucius Fox and James Gordon confirmed their fears, as both agreed that Gotham had become an untenable place to reside. Gotham was the literal hell on earth. Despite the bleak outlook, Nightwing and Batman resolved to continue their efforts to help the city. As they made their way to Tricorner, they engaged in a serious conversation about their future plans. Batman wanted to fight on. Nightwing wanted to become a cop at Bloodhaven. Arriving at the destination, Bruce shared a glimmer of hope with Nightwing, suggesting that perhaps the good old days were not entirely over. Encountering a street gang wreaking havoc, they sprang into action, reminiscent of the dynamic duo's heroic exploits from the past. Joke's on you. In the shadows of a broken Gotham, Batman found himself entangled in a harrowing case involving the abduction of a young girl by an ex-convict with ties to Arkham Asylum. When the abductor took his own life, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions, Batman delved in to seek for answers within the twisted confines of Arkham itself. Inside the asylum's chilling walls, he uncovered a sinister connection between the abductor's cell and that of the notorious Joker. As the Joker's twisted mind games unfolded, Batman pieced together the chilling truth. The abduction was a meticulously orchestrated plan by the Joker himself. With a keen eye for detail, Batman realized the significance of the date, the anniversary of Jason Todd's tragic demise, a clue that unraveled the Joker's sinister scheme. Refusing to dance to the Joker's tune any longer, Batman cut through the madness and demanded the whereabouts of the kidnapped girl. Surprisingly, the Joker relinquished the information, his facade of amusement fading as the game came to an abrupt end. With the clock ticking, Batman raced against time, battling through a gauntlet of henchmen to rescue the innocent girl from the clutches of despair. In a dramatic climax, he pulled her from the jaws of peril. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the city breathed a sigh of relief, Batman confronted the Joker once more, seeking answers as to why the Joker gave up the information so easily. In a chilling revelation, the Joker unveiled his twisted logic. Previously, when Joker gave away any lead to a hostage situation, Batman always hoped for the worst. He always knew that he'd find the hostage dead. But from that night onwards, Batman would never be able to let go of his optimism. Joker had given Batman a slight glimmer of hope to hang on to, until one day he might come back to take it away. Chapter 3: Road to No Man's Land. Dark Angels. In the dimly lit alleys of Gotham City, Azrael stood shoulder to shoulder with Batman, quelling a band of street thugs preying on a hospital. With the confrontation resolved, Batman turned to Azrael, requesting a crucial favor: to investigate Senator Hallivan's whereabouts in Washington, D.C. Azrael promptly reached out to Oracle for assistance in locating the senator. Armed with information, he discovered that Hallivan was attending a high-profile concert headlined by the renowned rock star Nicholas Scratch. Oracle provided Azrael with intricate details about the event's venue and timing. Upon arriving in the nation's capital, Jean-Paul faced a surprising obstacle. The concert tickets were long sold out. Thinking fast, he adopted his Azrael guise, convincing a skeptical security guard that he was affiliated with the band. With access secured, Azrael infiltrated the concert grounds. Backstage, Scratch prepared for his performance while plotting a deadly scheme targeting Senator Hallivan. As the concert commenced, Hallivan innocently approached Scratch, unaware of the peril awaiting him on the stage's upper catwalk. Promising an introduction to potential arms dealers, Hallivan ascended the catwalk, only to be ambushed by masked assailants. Just in the nick of time, Azrael intervened, thwarting the attackers and ensuring Hallivan's safety as instructed by Batman. Later, Hallivan confronted Scratch, demanding answers, but Scratch, masking his malevolence, led Hallivan to his dressing room under false pretenses. Alone in the confines of the dressing room, Scratch revealed his true colors, launching a savage assault on the unsuspecting senator, strangling him and silencing him forever in the darkness of the night. Holy terror! Nicholas Scratch gazed upon the lifeless form of Senator Hallivan, contemplating his next move, when his devil-faced henchmen barged into his dressing room. They recounted their failed attempt on Hallivan's life, interrupted by a mysterious costumed figure. Scratch, unfazed by the setback, saw an opportunity to manipulate the situation to his advantage. He devised a plan to shift blame onto an unsuspecting soul from Gotham City. Azrael, overhearing Scratch's sinister scheme, resolved to thwart his plans and prevent further harm. Scratch, recognizing Azrael's interference, mocked him as an inconsequential figure in comparison to himself, a celebrated superstar. As Scratch raised the alarm, accusing Azrael of the murder, security guards rushed to the scene. Faced with the guards' hostility, Azrael fought his way out of the dressing room, evading capture. Meanwhile, Scratch instructed his henchmen to confront Azrael publicly during his performance. Yet, when the confrontation unfolded on the main stage, Scratch's henchmen attacked Azrael, but Azrael seized the opportunity to escape. As news of the incident spread, implicating Azrael in Hallivan's death, Scratch reveled in his manipulative triumph, plotting further schemes against Gotham City. Meanwhile, Batman confronted Jean-Paul, urging him to abandon the Azrael mantle and destroy the costume. To Batman, Jean-Paul was not only a failure, but also a murderer. Batman's frustration was palpable, not only due to the failed protection of Hallivan, but also the imminent threat to Gotham's stability. Hallivan, Batman emphasized, represented the city's last hope in Congress, his absence spelling potential doom. Despite the gravity of the situation, Jean-Paul felt compelled to complete one final task as Azrael, before bidding farewell to the persona forever. Will Powers. Kyle Rayner came to Gotham in search of a stolen brooch that connected with a criminal ring operating there. He met with initial resistance from Batman when Batman told him to leave the city and took his power ring. However, he followed the lead to the gang, discovering that Batman was already there in disguise. Rayner was ultimately spotted and he fought hard against Klaus, the boss, but Rayner was stabbed and choked to unconsciousness. When he regained his senses, he found the hooch in his hands and Batman standing over him. Batman gave Rayner his ring back and welcomed him to Gotham. Meanwhile, at Oracle's base, two intruders attacked. However, they were stopped by the Man-Bat, who had almost turned into an animal. Man-Bat quickly incapacitated the thugs. He seemingly found a connection with Oracle. With a little bit of humanity left in him, he could realize that he had wings, but Oracle couldn't walk. So, he took her for a spin in the night sky and then dropped her home safely. Oracle was happy that she'd made friends in high places. Elsewhere, Huntress was on a mission to stop the loot of medicinal-grade morphine from different medical vans in Gotham. She needed the medicine for a lady who had just lost her whole family. When she witnessed hired soldiers attacking and looting a van, she jumped in and killed all the assailants. Right then, the Question intervened. They together got the morphine to the ailing lady. Question gave Huntress the lead to soldiers. They found out that National Guard Alex Kofi was behind everything. Huntress and Question teamed up together and brought all the soldiers down. For a change and an unknown reason, Huntress didn't kill Foley. Witnessing that the Question mused, perhaps there was a way to save her soul. Plead for help. As Bruce Wayne prepared for his journey to Washington, D.C., he couldn't shake the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His determination to revive Gotham City drove him forward, even as Nicholas Scratch plotted to undermine his efforts. Scratch, ever the opportunist, saw Bruce's endeavors as a threat and devised a plan to disrupt Gotham's reconstruction by unleashing chaos through the notorious Firefly, Garfield Linz. While Bruce embarked on his mission with hope in his heart, Scratch used his influence to manipulate public opinion against Gotham's resurgence. Despite Bruce's best intentions, his reception in Washington was far from welcoming. His lobbyist delivered a disheartening verdict, casting doubt on the success of his endeavors. Under the cloak of night, Wayne transformed into Batman, seeking crucial information from a senator opposed to Gotham's rebirth. However, Scratch's minions were one step ahead, launching an ambush that left Batman outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Forced to retreat, Batman narrowly evaded the clutches of his assailants, but not without realizing the extent of Scratch's influence. Upon learning that Batman had escaped, Scratch became so enraged that he murdered his henchman with his bare hands, but his companion Mara Lee witnessed it. The next morning, Scratch orchestrated a televised protest, rallying public opinion against Gotham's reconstruction. In the face of adversity, Bruce sought solace in the wisdom of Alfred. With renewed determination, Bruce stepped forward, understanding that the fate of Gotham rested squarely on his shoulders once again. Gotham, my love, Bruce Wayne stood poised and resolute before the assembly gathered at the Capitol building, his voice carrying the weight of Gotham's fate as he advocated for the city's reconstruction. With eloquence that surprised some, Bruce spoke from the heart, painting a vivid picture of his deep-rooted commitment and affection for Gotham. He recalled the pivotal moments of his life, the tragic loss of his parents and his solemn vow to protect the city as Batman. Watching from afar, the Gotham Police Department, Tim Drake, Barbara Gordon, and countless others witnessed Bruce's impassioned defense of their beloved city. As Bruce concluded his speech, Senator Barkley challenged Gotham's tarnished reputation and the villains dwelling there. In response, Bruce reminded him of the forces of good that had always protected Gotham. But the scrutiny didn't end there. Senator Hillier accused Bruce of self-interest, insinuating that his efforts to save Gotham were merely a facade to protect his own wealth. Unwavering, Bruce asserted that while all the companies had abandoned Gotham, he could have done the same. However, his love for Gotham was a demon he loved to wrestle with. In a poignant moment, Bruce invoked Gotham's resilience in the face of adversity, citing past calamities, from plagues to earthquakes, as a testament to the city's indomitable spirit. Ultimately, he left the decision in the hands of the senators and the audience, confident in the righteousness of his cause. Outside the hallowed halls of the Capitol, Bruce faced a throng of eager journalists clamoring for answers. With characteristic humility, he offered a single response to a curious reporter's question: why did he care so deeply for Gotham? Bruce's reply was simple yet profound. It was a promise made long ago, an oath to protect and serve, born from the tragedy that shaped his destiny. As he recalled the vow made to his parents and his role as both Bruce Wayne and Batman, his strong dedication to Gotham shone brightly for all to see. Night of Despair. As the broadcast of the United States Congress unfolded, Oracle, Nightwing, and Robin gathered to witness the pivotal discussion about Gotham City's fate. Disheartened by the lack of optimism among the lawmakers, the trio realized that the city's future hung in a precarious balance, depending on the decisions made by those far removed from its daily struggles. Meanwhile, under Scratch's sinister directives, Firefly embarked on a destructive mission, targeting a dilapidated chemical plant. With EPA members caught in the crossfire, the situation escalated into a catastrophic explosion, shaking the very foundations of Gotham. Responding to the turmoil, Nightwing and Robin sprang into action, guided by Oracle's updates and the urgency of the unfolding crisis. As chaos reigned in Gotham, Commissioner Gordon and his wife contemplated their future, weighing the possibility of starting anew elsewhere. Their decision reflected the growing despair permeating the city's residents, resigned to the inevitability of Gotham's demise. Elsewhere, Marion Granger's efforts to convey Gotham's plight to the press proved futile, met with indifference and skepticism. Simultaneously, Nicholas Scratch exploited the chaos, broadcasting commercials promoting the city's destruction, further fueling the sense of hopelessness. In this night of chaos, Nightwing and Robin pursued Firefly, determined to stop the threat he posed. Engaging in a tense confrontation, Nightwing attempted to contain Firefly's flames, but the situation intensified when Bullock, Montoya, and the military intervened. Firefly's gears malfunctioned, and he blasted into an inferno. Robin quickly backed a cement mixer up and dumped all the rubble on Firefly, extinguishing his flame. When the police apprehended Firefly in a critically burnt state, he said that he was working for Satan. Elsewhere, Scratch remained on his path, seeking out new agents of chaos to further his malevolent agenda. With Gearhead, Dynamiteer, and Tumult now in his ranks, Gotham braced itself for a new wave of destruction as its defenders prepared for the inevitable showdown with the evil forces. Day of Hope. The Dynamiteer wreaked havoc on the Gotham Bridge, leaving William Pettitt's team helpless. Just as chaos seemed to reign supreme, Nightwing and Robin swooped in, halting the criminal's rampage and handing him over to the GCPD. Meanwhile, Nicholas Scratch observed with sinister satisfaction as his machinations unfolded seamlessly. Commissioner Gordon ventured to Ivytown for a job interview, hopeful for a fresh start. However, his optimism was short-lived when he overheard mocking remarks from the chief and an officer, prompting a realization about his true worth and where he belonged. Retrieving his forgotten eyeglasses, Gordon left, grateful for the clarity the encounter provided. Back in Gotham, Bullock and Montoya interrogated the Dynamiteer, who cryptically mentioned being hired by a mysterious figure. Concerned by his mention of they, Bullock braced for the next assault. Suddenly, chaos erupted anew as a colossal masked assailant wielding a jackhammer laid waste to the federal building. Nightwing and Robin raced to the scene, joined by the overwhelmed police force. As the dust settled and the authorities combed through the wreckage, Tumult, the jackhammer-wielding assailant, remained elusive, having vanished without a trace. On the other hand, James Gordon returned to Gotham, only to face another harrowing ordeal as he and Sarah were ambushed by a menacing truck. In a desperate bid to protect his wife, Gordon engaged in a tense firefight, narrowly averting disaster. Crossing the rubble of the federal building, Nightwing and Robin ventured into the sewers, unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, they were ambushed by Tumult, whose unstoppable assault threatened to overwhelm them. In a moment of desperation, Nightwing unleashed his fury upon Tumult, triggering a catastrophic collapse that left their adversary buried beneath tons of concrete. As they contemplated their next move, unbeknownst to them, the vengeful villain Gearhead watched their every move through a hidden camera, plotting his next strike. House of Wax. Jeremiah Arkham jolted awake from a haunting nightmare, sweat-soaked sheets clinging to him. In the eerie stillness of Arkham Asylum, he wrestled with the daunting task of maintaining order, surrounded by the aftermath of the earthquake. With dwindling supplies and a shortage of staff, Jeremiah faced an uphill battle to keep the asylum running smoothly. In the clamor of the breakfast hall, Joker and Waxman engaged in a tense exchange, their banter laced with an undercurrent of tension. When Waxman dared to challenge Joker's authority, chaos erupted, culminating in a bizarre showdown orchestrated by Pinhead, leaving the Joker in stitches of laughter. As the day wore on, Jeremiah and his loyal orderly, Davis, navigated the labyrinthine halls of the asylum, dispensing medication to the inmates. Some showed signs of improvement, while others spiraled further into madness with each passing day. As night fell and the asylum descended into darkness, a mysterious figure stalked the shadowy corridors, sending the inmates into a frenzy of fear. Jeremiah wrestled with his own doubts and fears, haunted by the specter of Batman that seemed to loom over the asylum like a malevolent presence. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne struggled with the weight of his own responsibilities, torn between his dual identities as both billionaire philanthropist and caped crusader. With Gotham walking on the ledge of collapse, Alfred suggested a different approach, urging Bruce to use his influence to sway the hearts and minds of Congress. The following day, as chaos continued to reign within the asylum, Jeremiah's worst fears were realized when much of the staff failed to show up for duty. Desperate to maintain some semblance of control, he allowed the inmates a brief respite in the garden, unaware of the chaos that would soon unfold. In the ensuing melee, Joker seized the opportunity to sow further discord, setting the stage for a sinister scheme that threatened to plunge the asylum into even deeper turmoil. House of Madness. Joker, with his silver tongue, persuaded Jeremiah Arkham to entertain the asylum inmates by orchestrating a gladiatorial showdown between Killer Croc and Pinhead. Arkham reluctantly agreed, and as Joker departed, he pilfered Arkham's journal and learned about Arkham giving depressives to the manic depressants. The following day, Arkham faced a staffing crisis with only a handful of employees showing up. With no choice, he assigned 2 guards to dispense medication while he and David prepared the gym for the impending brawl. Little did they know, Joker's meddling with the computer system resulted in lethal doses for Croc, among others. As they opened the gym, they discovered a slain guard, but they pressed on with the plan. Despite Arkham's attempts to halt the fight, Croc charged ahead, sparking a brutal clash with Pinhead. The inmates, captivated by the spectacle, were oblivious to the danger brewing. In a gruesome turn, Croc turned the tables on Pinhead, bludgeoning him to death with a dumbbell. Chaos ensued as the inmates revolted, but Joker intervened, wielding a fire hose to subdue them. Joker killed Waxman, and then Arkham's plea for mercy halted further bloodshed. Realizing they were outnumbered, Arkham and his staff locked the inmates in the gym, only for Joker to toss Arkham's diary to him, revealing his manipulative hand in the chaos. With security abandoning them, Arkham and David retreated to his office, their isolation punctuated by the gruesome sight of Sollybean feasting on an orderly's remains. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Arkham succumbed to sleep, while news of Bruce Wayne's plight at the hands of Congress played out on the television. Meanwhile, a shadowy figure, masquerading as Batman, infiltrated the asylum, only to find the inmates eagerly awaiting his arrival, setting the stage for another chilling confrontation. A broken house on Sirius Earth. Jeremiah Arkham sat in his office, a knot of suspicion tightening in his gut as he realized his door was unlocked. With a wary glance around, he opened his diary, pen scratching against the page, but his attention soon drifted to the television broadcasting news from Washington, D.C. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease, prompting him to venture into the asylum's corridors to check on the inmates. There, he found a scene straight out of a nightmare. The inmates had cornered a figure they believed to be Batman, but laughter echoed instead of fear. At Joker's command, they surged forward, threatening violence. Jeremiah intervened just in time to prevent a tragedy, only to witness the unmasking of the fallen figure, not the Dark Knight, but his trusted colleague, David Thurman. As Thurman's life ebbed away, Jeremiah knew he had to flee to safety, retreating once more to his office and locking the door behind him. Days passed in a haze of fear and dwindling supplies, the inmates' chaos escalating as desperation set in. With each passing moment, Jeremiah's memories clawed at him, reminding him of past traumas and the looming sense of impending doom. The situation deteriorated further when Joker's murderous spree spurred other inmates to unleash mayhem. Despite his best efforts, Jeremiah found himself on the brink of surrender until a desperate gambit formed in his mind. On the third day, faced with the inevitability of the inmates breaking into his office, Jeremiah struck a bargain: freedom in exchange for their departure from Gotham. With cautious hope, he opened the doors, allowing the inmates to spill out into the night. But as darkness descended, Jeremiah's fears proved true. The stench of smoke filled the air, accompanied by the mad laughter of those who lingered behind. With mounting dread, he realized his desperate bid for control had only unleashed greater chaos, and he huddled in his office, consumed by uncertainty and the chilling certainty that the nightmare was far from over. Another battle lost. The United States government issued a stark ultimatum to Gotham City's inhabitants: evacuate within 48 hours, as the city faced imminent shutdown. U.S. Marshals were deployed to enforce the order, scrutinizing every exit point to ensure no criminals slipped through the cracks. Among them was Killer Croc, thwarted in his attempt to flee. Media outlets buzzed with coverage of the unfolding crisis, though some reporters remained indifferent to the plight of Gotham's residents. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Bruce Wayne's frustration boiled over, culminating in a destructive outburst within his hotel room. A call from Marion Grange redirected his focus to their impending strategy discussions. Commissioner Gordon delved into a grim investigation at Gotham's morgue, seeking answers about the assailants who targeted him and his wife. Shockingly, the bodies revealed evidence of genetic tampering. In a shadowy corner of the city, Nicholas Scratch received news of his failed assassination attempt on Gordon. He enlisted a professional hitman to target his primary adversary, Bruce Wayne. As Wayne and Grange concluded their meeting, tragedy struck. Scratch's hired assassin's bullet meant for Wayne found its mark in Grange's back, ending her life in an instant. Enraged, Wayne sought vengeance, his gaze fixed on the assassin's perch, but Alfred intervened before rash action was taken. In Gotham, Lucius Fox threaded his departure alongside the last remnants of Wayne Enterprises staff, fleeing the crumbling city by helicopter. From above, they witnessed the destruction of Gotham's bridges, sealing the city's fate. Elsewhere, at the Gotham Clock Tower, allies made decisions about their futures. Robin contemplated a move to Keystone City, while Nightwing planned a return to Bloodhaven. Barbara Gordon, however, declared her intent to remain steadfast in her commitment to Gotham. On the streets, rebels and outlaws alike plotted their escape, determined to evade the city's impending demise. The following day brought further turmoil. Scratch's fury mounted upon learning of Wayne's absence from the Capitol building ceremony. As Congress convened to sign Gotham's death warrant, Wayne's conspicuous absence captured national attention, leaving Scratch seething with frustration and vengeance. A sidekick solace, Nicholas Scratch dispatched his minions to Gotham City with a singular mission: to locate and eliminate Bruce Wayne. Nightwing and Robin, their last patrol before Gotham's impending closure, pondered Bruce's whereabouts. Unbeknownst to them, Gearhead surveilled their movements, equally intrigued by Batman's absence. At GCPD headquarters, James Gordon and Sarah contemplated their future in the city's turmoil. Determined to stand firm, Gordon was heartened when his fellow officers pledged unwavering support. The General Cadwallader Bridge, last road out of Gotham, was getting shut down forever in 45 minutes. Robin and Nightwing arrived there for a recon mission. However, Gearhead attacked and abducted Nightwing, demanding Batman's return or he'd kill Nightwing. Robin reached out to Oracle for aid in locating Bruce, though their efforts proved futile. With Nightwing's life in peril, Oracle improvised, buying precious time for Robin's rescue mission. Robin reached Nightwing and was about to free him when Scratch's minions descended upon Nightwing and Robin. With quick thinking, the duo plunged into the river below, rescuing an unexpected figure, Simpson Flanders, a former TV psychiatrist. Meanwhile, Gearhead's attempt to thwart Scratch's minions led to unintended consequences. His gunfire struck the bridge's detonators prematurely, and the bridge was blown in half. In another corner of Gotham, Scratch's minions scrambled for guidance, only to meet a sudden and violent end at the hands of the Joker. Robin and Nightwing sought solace at Wayne Manor, their hopes shattered as they beheld the ruins of the Batcave, signaling a new era for Gotham. Vendetta. Nicholas Scratch stood poised to address the nation, his message carrying weighty implications for Gotham's future. But before his televised appearance, he engaged in backroom dealings, greasing the palms of congressmen to sway the votes against the city's reconstruction. Meanwhile, Jean-Paul sought Oracle's aid, despite his unofficial status within the Bat family, in uncovering crucial information about Chief Justice Osgood Rockforth, who was meeting other judges to discuss legal ramifications of Gotham's shutdown. As Scratch's broadcast unfolded, painting Gotham as irredeemable, Jean-Paul embarked on a perilous mission. As Azrael, he confronted a heavily guarded congressman's residence, breaching the defenses. In a dramatic rescue, Azrael's instincts proved true as he averted a potential explosion, saving Rockforth's life and imploring him to advocate for Gotham's revival. In the aftermath of Scratch's divisive rhetoric, Batman confronted Jean-Paul, questioning his defiance. Jean-Paul revealed his premonition of Scratch's sinister plans, justifying his actions in the face of imminent danger. Surprisingly, Batman commended Jean-Paul's initiative, revealing that despite the congressman's lone vote for reconstruction, he was proud of Jean-Paul's dedication to Gotham. With mutual respects reaffirmed, Batman extended an olive branch, welcoming Jean-Paul back into the fold of the Bat family. With a handshake, Jean-Paul embraced his renewed role, ready to stand alongside Batman once more in the ongoing battle for Gotham's soul. The road ends. It was the end, after all. All evil plans of all evil beings and naysayers across the world bore its fruit. Gotham had been declared off-limits. It was shut down. With a heavy heart but unstoppable determination, Batman met Jean-Paul and asked him for his help in bringing Scratch down. While he spent all his money and resources and himself to bring Gotham back up, he gave Jean-Paul a new costume, because he was already framed as the murderer of Senator Hallivan. Azrael turned to Oracle for assistance in uncovering information about Scratch, and she directed him to a former associate named Kurt Lade. Meanwhile, fearing Lade's potential revelations, Scratch dispatched his henchmen to eliminate him. Azrael located Lade and pressed him for intel on Scratch's operations. The discussion was abruptly interrupted by an onslaught from local villagers, followed by an attack from Scratch's minions. Despite Azrael's valiant efforts, he found himself overwhelmed and subdued. Bound alongside Lade and the villagers, they faced a grim fate as Scratch's men set the house ablaze. As flames engulfed the structure, Azrael regained consciousness, seizing a moment of clarity to shed his iconic costume and free himself. With swift action, he rescued those around him from the inferno, but Lade had vanished amid the chaos. Feeling a pang of loss, Azrael contemplated abandoning his alter ego. However, a glimmer of hope sparked within him as he remembered the new costume bestowed upon him by Batman. Embracing the symbolism of renewal, Azrael bid farewell to his old identity and embraced the mantle of the new Azrael, ready to face the challenges ahead with renewed determination. Gotham was now a no-man's land. Anyone who stayed behind had their fate sealed, their survival resting on their own shoulders and the shoulders of a few saviors in the city. While some stayed behind to help the wounded and the affected, some were trapped, and some were angry. It was a rattle cage, a time bomb set to implode as criminals ran rampant over the city. So started the saga of fallen Gotham, a no man's land, and how its heroes brought it back to its feet. Chapter 4: No Man's Land, Broken Gotham. Where has the hero gone? In the wake of the US government's decree, Gotham City plunged into a desolate abyss known as No Man's Land. Once welcoming signs bore grim warnings of hell unleashed, flanked by stark declarations of exclusion from the United States. Outside the city's confines, soldiers patrolled, struggling with the legality of the proclamation. A Red Cross aid truck escorted by a priest was denied entry, highlighting the city's quarantine. Even attempts to provide aid were rebuffed, illustrating the absolute isolation imposed on No Man's Land. Elsewhere, a daring helicopter pilot offered illicit tours of the Gotham perimeter. Tempted by the promise of a lucrative scoop, a cameraman bribed the pilot to breach the no-fly zone. Their intrusion triggered a confrontation with a government chopper, forcing a hasty retreat. Hoping for survival, 3 individuals vied for sustenance from the dropped supplies. Ramon, a resourceful young boy, defended his meager find with a makeshift weapon, only to be confronted by the Blue Boys, guardians of their turf. Another, a girl, fell victim to theft, her spoils claimed by Scarface's ruthless gang. A shrewd barter led to a diamond for an apple in the opulent court of the Penguin, who lorded over his domain with greed and guile. Meanwhile, Barbara Gordon, confined to her quake-proof sanctuary, orchestrated from afar, piecing together the fractured landscape of gang-ruled territories. In Tricorner, the GCPD pushed somehow with dwindling resources and faltering morale, their faith in Batman waning with each passing day. Commissioner Gordon, disillusioned and haunted by past failures, rejected any hope of the Dark Knight's return. Elsewhere, within the city's shadows, a pair of teens stumbled upon a foreboding symbol, the bat, etched on a wall. Unbeknownst to them, a solitary figure lurked, a silent sentinel in the city's heart, a beacon of hope in Gotham's darkest hour. Turf War. One of Oracle's informants had reported finding a spray-painted bat on a wall. While this informant was usually reliable, Oracle couldn't quite believe that Batman would resort to using spray paint to mark his territory. She pondered whether he would try to contact her if he was truly back in action. In Blue Boy territory, Commissioner Gordon and his cops were holding their ground. They celebrated liberating another neighborhood, and Gordon himself used spray paint to mark the area as under their protection. Despite some objections, he declared their next target, Old Gotham and their old police headquarters. His plan? To incite a war between the low boys and the street demons, thinning their ranks before reclaiming the area. Gordon's motives were personal too, as his daughter Barbara still resided there, though nobody objected to his strategy. Later, Gordon tended to his garden, discussing the stresses of No Man's Land with his wife, Sarah. Uncertain if his methods were right, Sarah reassured him, praising his instincts in the chaos. Though he worried about becoming too much like Batman, he couldn't help but wonder where the real Dark Knight was during Gotham's hour of need. On a shadowy street, 3 thugs attempted to rob 2 kids. Before they could strike, Batgirl intervened, claiming this area as her own. Though the kids were scared, she assured them she was the Batman Gotham needed and told them to spread the word. Meanwhile, at GCPD, Gordon and SWAT officer William Pettit bicker on whether to use violent means to take back the city. In other encounters, a punk faced off against a nomad, only to be outwitted by the nomad's knowledge of no man's land's economy. Later, the punk crossed paths with a young trader, saved by a new ally with a bow and arrow. Finally, the punk met his end at the hands of the Joker, who was working on territory marking for his Jokerville. Back in Blue Boy territory, Gordon and his officers covertly tried to mark a territory, only to be caught by the street demons. Lurking. In the early days of No Man's Land, Bruce Wayne's trip to Monaco to uphold his playboy facade left him discontented. He despised the charade of being Bruce Wayne. Meanwhile, the Huntress strove to maintain order in Gotham's destitute streets. Yet, lacking the fearful reputation of Batman, she adopted a new persona, Batgirl. Upon Bruce's return, he realized he couldn't remain passive. Patrolling Gotham, he encountered the new Batgirl, swiftly identifying her as the Huntress. The meeting was interrupted by Farak, a plant-based being possibly linked to poison ivy. Batman delegated the situation to Huntress, wary of her methods. However, Huntress calmed Farak, guiding her to Robinson Park. Impressed, Batman departed, confident in Huntress's intentions as he focused on saving Gotham. Batman returns. Commissioner Gordon found himself face to face with the street demons, who threatened death for defacing their territory. Unseen, Officer Pettit intervened, shooting and killing the gang members. They left the bodies beneath their new Lowboys tag, inciting a turf war as they led the demons into Lowboy territory. Later, in bed with his wife Sarah, Gordon vowed to do whatever it took to save their daughter. Barbara Gordon documented the escalating conflict between the Lowboys and street demons. By day 98, there were 42 casualties, all gang-related. By day 99, the demons burned their dead, attributing them to the Lowboys. On day 100, they spread propaganda against Lowboys' brutality, rallying the neighborhood against them. Near the Gotham River, 3 gang members accosted an elderly man who was actually Alfred, intending to toss him into the river to test for mines. Batman intervened just in time, rescuing him, who had been caught on the bridge's edge. They discovered mines in the river, indicating someone's attempt to smuggle goods. Batman, feeling the weight of Gotham's decay, acknowledged the need for new strategies and agreed to Alfred's counsel against solitary action. The next day, Batman informed Oracle of his return, learning that his symbol had been painted around the city. On day 102, Commissioner Gordon ordered the expulsion of the demons. With the residents' aid, they swiftly secured the neighborhood, allowing Gordon to reunite with his daughter. Pettit's controversial actions further deterred the demons, reinforcing Gordon's authority. Meanwhile, the lady in the bat costume, dubbed as Batgirl, was confronted by Batman. It was none other than the Huntress, who thought using Batman's symbol would help her bring back Gotham. She defended her role as Gotham's protector. Despite his reservations, Batman allowed her to continue as Batgirl, provided she upheld the symbol's integrity and absolutely no lethal means. He agreed to mentor her, withholding his disapproval for the time being. Daywalker. Batman and Alfred convened in their makeshift Batcave, debating the unconventional tactic of using spray paint to mark Batman's territory in the desolate No Man's Land. While Alfred lamented it as vandalism, Batman saw it as a necessary evolution in Gotham's language. Venturing into the deserted city at night, Batman noted an unusual phenomenon. The streets were eerily safe in the darkness, rendering him invisible as he replaced Scarface's mark with his own. The following morning, Officer Ramirez brought Commissioner Gordon's attention to one of Batman's symbols on a statue near the Blue Boys' territory. Gordon dismissed it as the work of a prankster, doubting Batman's involvement. They swiftly covered the symbol, unwilling to propagate the notion of safety, and made no effort to track down the perpetrator, deeming it outside their jurisdiction. Simultaneously, Scarface's gang discovered Batman's mark in their domain. Enraged, Scarface retaliated by murdering a local and branding the corpse with his emblem, asserting dominance over the neighborhood. That night, Batman returned to find his symbol defaced and Scarface's message. Realizing his absence had eroded the populace's respect, Batman sought intel from a civilian, only to face hostility from Scarface's loyalists. Evading gunfire, Batman retreated to his hideout, resolving to reclaim Gotham's allegiance. Meanwhile, the guard reported the encounter to Scarface, pleading for reinforcement. Unable to glean useful intel from Oracle, Batman opted for undercover infiltration, disguised as a vagrant. He struck a deal with Scarface's gang, baiting them with a tempting offer. When confronted by Scarface, Batman sprung a trap, incapacitating his henchmen and commandeering Scarface himself. To restore his intimidating presence, Batman brazenly taunted Scarface's snipers in broad daylight. He survived a gunshot because no one in Gotham had armor-piercing rounds. This was a gamble he took, and the henchmen ran in fear, saying that Batman couldn't be killed. Having liberated the neighborhood, Batman assumed leadership, providing rations and enlisting Scarface's henchmen to enforce order under his authority. With his mark firmly established, Batman reclaimed control of his territory. Agent of Bat. John Paul donned the new costume gifted by Batman, but to his disappointment, it failed to activate his special abilities of the system, like his old attire. When ambushed by hostile villagers, Azrael wisely avoided confrontation, knowing his current costume offered no advantage in combat. He walked off by telling them that he was responsible for saving them from the fire and help was coming soon. Seeking information, Azrael tracked down Kurt Lade at a nearby church, where they exchanged insights into Nicholas Scratch's history. Learning of a potential lead, Azrael set out to investigate. Meanwhile, Scratch's minions regrouped at a nearby farm, intent on completing their mission by eliminating any survivors. As Azrael left the church, lightning struck dangerously close to him, followed by another near miss. Suddenly, Scratch's demonic minions emerged wielding pitchforks. Aware of his vulnerability, Azrael braced for a futile fight until a third bolt of lightning struck him. The lightning strike somehow rearranged his brain pattern and activated the system. Empowered with newfound combat prowess, Azrael swiftly dispatched the minions, astonished by his newfound abilities. Pressing forward, Azrael pursued Scratch to the location provided by Lade. Exploring a hut, he discovered it vacant except for a note addressed to him from Scratch, revealing the villain's departure for Gotham City. With this revelation, Azrael prepared to confront Scratch in Gotham's crime-ridden streets. No guard in Gotham, Batman extended his protective reach by marking Crime Alley, the very site where his transformation began. Outside his designated territory, desperate souls resorted to burning books from the Gotham Public Library for warmth. Observing this chaos, Scarecrow discerned the city's descent into madness and fear. Within the flames, he noticed a lone book spared from the inferno, the Bible, igniting a sinister plan in his mind. In a dilapidated church, two priests, Father Chris and Father Papaleo, established the Ark Project Refugee Center. Young Jonah, eager to contribute, proposed tagging the shelter for recognition. Despite their refusal of police aid to maintain a welcoming atmosphere, the priests harbored a diverse array of refugees, including a Somali family. As Jonah painted a symbol of peace, a white dove, Father Chris bridged language barriers to extend a warm welcome. Meanwhile, in an alley marked with Huntress's emblem, thugs menaced an elderly woman until Huntress intervened, driving them off. The elderly woman, firm in her purpose, tended to sick young women, revealing their struggles with addiction. Despite the differences, Huntress acknowledged the woman's compassion, recognizing the universal need for aid. Elsewhere, a faction of the False Face Society raided an abandoned police station in search of ammunition. Disgusted by the desecration of corpses, member Mikey parted ways with his comrades. Encountering Batman, Mikey confessed that they were grave robbing for used bullets. Batman redirected Mikey to the Ark Refugee Center, where redemption may await. At Gotham City Police Headquarters, Commissioner Gordon grappled with uncertainty about the future. Standing against militarization, Gordon reflected on Father Chris's commitment to the community. As Huntress confronted Scarecrow at the refugee center, the others advised her to leave him be. Gotham was no longer black and white, and the fear quotient was rising. Dwindling faith, Scarecrow wandered alone down a desolate street, collecting rats in a tattered bag, convinced that a mere handful of rodents could instill fear and drive people into hiding. At the Ark Project Refugee Center, Father Chris struggled with a crisis as rats infested the dwindling food supply. Despite his efforts to salvage what he could, Scarecrow taunted him, suggesting that peace within the center relied solely on well-fed bellies. As Father Chris faced the grim reality of food shortages, Scarecrow cruelly mocked the notion, proclaiming that hunger would drive people to understand suffering and seek solace in the promise of salvation. Outside the refuge, Batman and Helena, dressed as Batgirl, patrolled Penguin's territory while witnessing clashes between the Blue Boys and rival gangs. Seeing a brutal beating dealt by an officer, Commissioner Gordon intervened, questioning their purpose in a city spiraling into madness. Meanwhile, Father Chris, unbeknownst to Father Papaleo, found himself in an unexpected negotiation with the Penguin. Desperate for food, Father Chris reluctantly agreed to the Penguin's terms, risking the safety of his people to secure essential supplies. Helena was operating both as Huntress and Batgirl. As Huntress, she went back to the center. Elsewhere, Rabbi Sakharov and his followers sought shelter, finding a willing ally in Mikey, eager to contribute to their cause. In a daring raid, the False Faces plotted to steal the Penguin's arsenal, but Batman and Batgirl stopped them. When the house erupted in flames, they understood that it was arson, meant to burn the supplies at this dire hour. While Batman was saving Batgirl, the criminals escaped. Outside, Huntress confronted the False Faces, warning them to steer clear of Mikey. Meanwhile, Scarecrow manipulated Mikey into a deadly betrayal. He brought Mikey and Father Chris around to strike a deadly deal with the false faces. On his instruction, Mikey went to his former gang with guns, asking them for their protection. But instead, he was marked as a traitor and shot by his own gang member Leo. Huntress followed the gunshot and found Mikey left for dead. The descent to hell. The growing fear held the Ark Project Refugee Center in its clutches as Scarecrow, the mastermind, watched in glee. Huntress arrived, desperately seeking help for the badly wounded Mikey. Father Chris, feeling helpless, could offer nothing but prayers for Mikey's slim chances of survival. Sensing the urgency, Huntress rushed off to find aid, leaving Father Chris to confront the harsh reality. Meanwhile, Scarecrow, anticipating unrest, stirred up trouble among the distressed refugees, dismissing prayer as futile in their dire circumstances. Huntress tracked down Batman and pleaded with him to assist Mikey. Despite Batman's suggestion of taking Mikey to the MASH sector hospital, Huntress insisted on staying to protect the vulnerable refugees. Relenting to her fervent appeal, Batman carried Mikey to the hospital, where the wounded man reflected on his actions, finding solace in the hope of making his mother proud. Inside the bustling hospital, Batman sought help from Dr. Leslie Tompkins, who tended to Mikey's injuries. Batman and Leslie shared a moment of heartfelt camaraderie, reflecting on their reasons for staying back in Gotham. Meanwhile, back at the center, Scarecrow continued his devious schemes, spreading falsehoods about Mikey's fate to incite discord among the residents. Despite Huntress's warnings, Father Chris underestimated Scarecrow's influence, believing him harmless without his chemical arsenal. However, as tensions escalated, Father Chris struggled with the consequences of his earlier decisions. Elsewhere, Commissioner Gordon confronted Father Chris, urging him to align the center with the Blue Boys and hinting at Penguin's hidden agenda. As Batman raced against time to recover Penguin's arsenal, he arrived at the center just as the false faces gathered outside, fueled by Scarecrow's manipulations. With chaos on the horizon, Father Chris braced himself for the fallout of his choices, preparing to face the looming consequences alone. Deliver us from evil. Father Chris found himself facing the false faces alone. While inside the refugee center, Scarecrow's leadership prompted the people to arm themselves and prepare for a confrontation. Just when it seemed Father Chris had been injured, Penguin's gang arrived, targeting the false faces and seizing Father Chris as a hostage. Huntress swiftly guided the people back inside, but Scarecrow continued to instigate unrest, forcing Huntress to take matters into her own hands to rescue Father Chris before the situation escalated further. As Batman observed the tense standoff, he noticed the Blue Boys arriving, fearing the onset of a gang war. Huntress engaged in a skirmish with part of Penguin's gang, albeit unable to secure Father Chris's complete safety. Inside the center, tensions rose as the people braced themselves for a potential conflict, only for unexpected gunfire to emerge from behind the Penguin gang, revealing Leo's survival. Unseen by them, Huntress managed to extract Father Chris and bring him to safety inside the center. Outside, Batman confronted the Penguin gang, engaging them in a fierce battle to protect the area. Despite the Blue Boys' readiness to intervene, Batman employed a smoke bomb to prevent further bloodshed, sending a clear message to Penguin that the territory was now off limits. With Gordon and the Blue Boys withdrawing, peace was restored to the area. Inside the center, Leo revealed that Scarecrow had manipulated the gang into believing the weapons were stored there. As the refugees turned on Scarecrow, Huntress stepped in, urging for restraint and reminding them of their shared humanity. To Scarecrow's astonishment, the people forgave him and offered comfort, prompting him to flee in disbelief. Later, Penguin's gang informed him of the events, revealing that Father Chris and the people disposed of the weapons. Alone and disoriented, Scarecrow realized that his attempts to exploit fear had failed. Struggling against a burning trash can, he shed his costume, symbolizing his loss of power. With no weapons or allies left, Scarecrow retreated into a state of catatonia. In a moment of trust, Batman revealed his makeshift Batcave to Batgirl, positioned in Arkham Asylum's basement, emphasizing their need for adaptability in the current circumstances. Sigh of relief. In the aftermath of a collapsed building, a girl named Mitzi found herself trapped on the upper floor while the cannibal named Calibax lurked in the shadows below. Meanwhile, Nicholas Scratch managed to manipulate a pair of marshals into taking him to Gotham City by hypnotizing them. Azrael, observing from a distance, was approached by a woman named Jasper Freedang, who begged him to escort her to Gotham in search of her daughter. Reluctantly, Azrael agreed to accompany her. As Mitzi struggled with uncertainty about Calibax's whereabouts, the man she'd been with, Benny, grew increasingly frustrated with her demeanor and treatment. Azrael devised a distraction by setting a truck ablaze, allowing him and Jasper to board a boat unnoticed. Seizing the opportunity, Scratch coerced the marshals into transporting him to Gotham, but the journey was interrupted by a gang of thugs. Azrael intervened, dispatching the attackers, but Scratch took advantage of the chaos to flee. Meanwhile, Mitzi and Benny faced dire circumstances, with Benny venturing downstairs in search of food, convinced Calibax had left. However, his assumption proved fatal as Calibax emerged from the shadows and killed him, leaving Mitzi alone and terrified. Upon reaching shore, Azrael and Jasper set out to find her daughter. Back at the collapsed building, Calabax threatened Mitzi's life as she cried for help. Hearing her distress, Azrael rushed to her aid, engaging in a fierce battle with Calabax. Despite his exhaustion, Azrael managed to defeat Calabax, throwing him off the building. Jasper was overwhelmed with emotions and blamed Mitzi for the suffering she endured. However, she ultimately embraced Mitzi, expressing her forgiveness and understanding. Azrael, witnessing the reconciliation, felt a sense of relief as peace was restored in no man's land. Reclamation. Batman was hit with a sobering realization while throwing punches in a heated scuffle with a street gang over a graffiti tag. Gotham City no longer trembled at the mention of his name, and worse, some now openly defied his authority. Fueled by determination, Batman resolved to reclaim his once feared presence and strike fear into the hearts of criminals once more. But he knew he couldn't accomplish this daunting task alone and set out to enlist the help of a trusted ally. Meanwhile, the Blue Boys found themselves locked in a brutal confrontation with the Wreckers and the Hosa, united in their bid to seize control of the Blue Boys' territory. Despite their valiant efforts, tragedy struck as the Blue Boys lost one of their own, leaving Foley disheartened. He advocated for prioritizing the defense of their turf over engaging in skirmishes with rival gangs, a view shared in secret by Commissioner Gordon. Across town, the Penguin resurrected the infamous Iceberg Lounge within the Davenport building, establishing an underground marketplace where illicit goods were bartered, drawing both criminals and honest citizens seeking sustenance. Unbeknownst to the Penguin, a spy lurked within the shadows, feeding valuable intel to Oracle about the club's activities. After bidding farewell to a fallen comrade, Commissioner Gordon was reluctantly approached by a mysterious figure from his past, offering an alliance to uphold law and order in the anarchic city. Despite his reservations, Gordon begrudgingly accepted, recognizing the necessity of such a partnership in restoring peace. Seeking intel on criminal gatherings, Batman turned to Oracle, who revealed the Iceberg Lounge as a notorious hotspot. Accompanied by Batgirl, Batman stormed the lounge, intent on making a bold statement. He instructed Batgirl to stand guard outside, ready to take charge if he failed. Inside, the Penguin orchestrated a high-stakes competition, luring participants with enticing prizes. But before the games could commence, Batman interrupted, issuing a direct challenge to the Penguin. Victory. Batman disrupted the organized fights at Penguin's new Iceberg Lounge, seizing the opportunity to make a statement in front of Gotham City's underworld. He swiftly confronted Penguin, delivering a decisive punch that broke his nose. Asserting his authority, Batman demanded the release of innocent hostages held by Penguin, offering to take down his champion, Dozer. In exchange, Penguin agreed, but set the condition that Batman must defeat all of his henchmen as well. With little choice, Batman accepted the challenge, facing a daunting lineup of opponents. Meanwhile, the Gotham City Police Department received reports of a massacre at the territory of the Hosa and Wreckers gangs. Arriving at the scene, they found the gangs decimated, with the Blue Boy symbol left behind, a clear message. While many Blue Boys were shocked by the turn of events, Commissioner Gordon recognized the perpetrator all too well. Back at the Iceberg Lounge, Batman struggled against Penguin's henchmen, taking them down one by one. Seeing Batman as a lucrative attraction, Penguin capitalized on the situation by allowing bets on the outcome of the fights. At GCPD headquarters, the remaining officers celebrated as word spread that the remaining gangs were now fearful of them after witnessing the fate of the Hosa and Wreckers. Negotiations for protection agreements began, buoying the officers' spirits. However, Gordon received a cryptic letter signaling that justice had been served, with more to come. Penguin's scheme backfired when he discovered that all bets were in favor of Batman, risking his entire enterprise if Batman defeated all his henchmen. Desperate, Penguin halted the fights, accusing Batman of cheating by sparing lives. The enraged crowd turned on Penguin, but Batman intervened, asserting his authority. He struck a deal with Penguin, taking control and demanding full cooperation in exchange for sparing his business. Before Penguin could negotiate, Batman vanished. Batgirl anxiously awaited Batman's return outside the lounge, relieved when he suddenly appeared. His spirits lifted after his victorious showdown inside. Masks. Black Mask had amassed a devoted cult, their singular aim, dominion over Gotham City. Shedding his old guise, Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask, now roamed the streets, bearing his scarred visage to the world. Barbara Gordon, resting fitfully, found herself dreaming of her days as Batgirl. A jarring call roused her, connecting her to Rex, one of her many Gotham informants tasked with monitoring the Black Mask gang. Oracle, sensing trouble, warned Rex to be vigilant, but before he could react, the gang ambushed him, with Batgirl arriving too late to prevent his capture. Meanwhile, Batman forged an alliance with Lockup, entrusting him to confine the city's criminals in Blackgate Penitentiary, bolstered by KG Beast's assistance. James Gordon's troubles extended beyond policing, strained by marital discord with Sarah, while his deployment of officers to protect Barbara at the Gotham Clock Tower drew skepticism from his precinct. Batman's investigation unveiled Black Mask's scheme, the schematic distraction of Bruce Wayne's properties, including the Clock Tower. Batman tasked Batgirl with safeguarding it, challenging her readiness for the Bat Mantle. Harvey Bullock stood as Gordon's lone supporter, unwavering in his endorsement of the Commissioner's strategies. Gordon, visiting Barbara, discussed his marital woes and the latest Batman sightings. Later, Black Mask interrogated Rex ruthlessly, leaving him blinded after a brutal torture. As Black Mask and his followers besieged the clock tower, Barbara, armed and remorseful for Rex's plight, prepared to take action. Yet, before she could act, a startling sight halted her. A Batgirl standing right in front of her, poised to confront Black Mask at Batman's directive. Mirror to the past. Barbara Gordon, poised to confront Black Mask outside a building, found herself stunned as Batgirl, someone other than herself, swooped in to take on the False Face Society. Meanwhile, James Gordon, embroiled in a heated argument with his wife Sarah, was interrupted by Renee Montoya with news of the attack on Barbara's residence. Swiftly, Gordon mobilized the entire Gotham City Police Department to her aid. By the time they arrived, Batgirl had already subdued Black Mask and his crew, spiriting Sionis away. Inside her apartment, unscathed but shaken by the appearance of the new Batgirl, began investigating the vigilante's identity. Her father, bursting in to check on her, added to her distress. Batgirl, escorting Roman Sionis to Batman, was met with silence when she inquired about his destination. At Blackgate Penitentiary, lockup rebuffed individuals seeking refuge, inciting a scuffle promptly quelled by KG Beast under Batman's watchful eye. Batman, entrusting Black Mask to Lockup's custody, demanded Sionis be kept separate. Afterward, he sternly warned Batgirl against further insubordination, threatening her expulsion from the team. During Gordon's renewed argument with Sarah, Montoya, stationed outside, grew anxious at the sudden silence. Upon entering, she found the couple embracing affectionately, opting to leave them in peace. Summoning Batman with a makeshift bat signal, Barbara poured out her heartache at the sight of the new Batgirl. Batman reassured her, urging trust, though Barbara remained wary. Elsewhere, members of the False Face Society faced trial and execution under the watchful eye of an enigmatic figure in the Tallyman, meting out justice for their crimes. To serve and protect. Renee Montoya reluctantly took a break from Gotham City Police Department duty, discovering her brother Benny missing. Learning he was aiding Two-Face in humanitarian efforts, she was initially skeptical but joined their rescue mission. Injured during a building collapse rescue, she was brought to her parents' apartment with Two-Face's help. Two-Face was flipping his coin to decide his every move. His coin consistently landed on the good side, prompting his good deeds. Renee, knowing the coin's duality, feared its eventual flip. One night, after a scuffle with a gang, Renee saved Two-Face's life, but Batman swooped in. Two-Face started a brawl with Batman and tossed his coin to know what to do next. However, Renee grabbed it. Batman tied Two-Face up, ready to take him into custody. However, Renee became the devil's advocate and asked Batman to leave Two-Face, and assured Batman that she'll take care of him. On the other side of the city, two squatters, Jeff and Mel, went to an abandoned room in a building. Unbeknownst to them, that place was Joker's former hideout. They went through all the rooms and discovered sick mementos and booby traps. When the telephone rang and they tried to answer, Batgirl jumped in and ordered them to leave the place. She picked up the receiver cautiously, and there was a blast, decimating Joker's lair. The three of them made it out alive. Jeff had brought back a soda can and gave it to Mel. Taking a sip, Mel went into a fit of laughter. It was laced with Joker poison, and Mel died laughing. Back when the earthquake struck, Harold, Batman's trusted mechanic, was told by Alfred to leave, lest he endangered himself. Harold had left the manor when it was still standing, and was leaving the city, but he found a broken city instead. So, he set out to do the thing he did best: fix broken things. The Angel and the Clown. In Gotham City, chaos wasn't just a visitor, it was the host. But even in such a tumultuous place, the Joker found himself frustrated. His usual antics seemed to fall flat, drowned out by the constant bedlam around him. To make matters worse, he felt like Batman, his perennial adversary, had left him in the dust, forgotten. Feeling forsaken, the Joker concocted a scheme to grab the Dark Knight's attention. Meanwhile, Azrael, on a mission to locate the supposedly deceased Calibax, stumbled upon clues hinting at the mutant's survival. Batman intercepted Azrael's pursuit, informing him of the imminent threat posed by the Joker. Azrael, torn between priorities, tried to convince Batman of other pressing dangers, but Batman was resolute. The Joker took precedence. As the Joker embarked on his twisted escapade, luring children from an orphanage into his web of malevolence, Azrael patrolled the city streets, wrestling with his conscience. A chance encounter with a misguided woman led Azrael to a message from the Joker, summoning him to Forest Park. Arriving at the park, Azrael found the Joker, not alone, but with a child ensnared in a deadly contraption. Azrael faced the Joker's wrath, forced to play along to save the innocent life at stake. Azrael was trapped in a sewer pipe by the Joker's goons and dropped into the freezing water. However, his determination helped him break free and thwart the Joker's machinations, albeit after a harrowing struggle. But the Joker fled the scene. Returning to the city, Azrael felt remorseful for not meeting Batman's expectations. Yet, Batman's reassurance that saving a child was victory enough left Azrael humble. With newfound clarity, Azrael departed into the city's forgotten corners, his resolve undiminished. The Squire and the Knight. Alfred received a special invitation from Leslie Tompkins to visit a refugee center, where he planned to share tales with the children there. Choosing his words carefully, Alfred spun a yarn about a loyal squire and a valiant knight, whose unwavering commitment to their kingdom was tested by a devastating catastrophe, much like the earthquake that had shaken Gotham City and altered their lives forever. Throughout his narrative, Alfred found himself interrupted by a particularly restless child who voiced his dissatisfaction with the story's pace. Steadfast, Alfred delved deeper into the squire's solo exploits surrounded by the ruins, depicting acts of courage and kindness that mirrored the resilience of Gotham's own citizens in the face of adversity. With each twist and turn, Alfred subtly wove elements of his own experiences, recalling moments when he, too, had confronted danger in the absence of the Dark Knight. As the story reached its climax, with the squire bravely emulating his knightly mentor, Alfred couldn't help but reflect on his own brushes with peril and the timely interventions that had saved him. With the tale concluded, the once disruptive child surprised Alfred by clamoring for more, now captivated by the narrative he'd initially dismissed. Expressing his gratitude to Leslie for the opportunity, Alfred took his leave, his thoughts drifting toward the shadowy confines of the Batcave. There, in the darkness, Batman awaited, ready to strategize their next move against Two-Face, knowing that their alliance was stronger than ever. Home is where the heart is. In the heart of Gotham City, within the chaos of gang warfare, Batgirl found herself outnumbered and outmatched in her attempt to quell the violence. Forced to retreat for her own safety, she left the scene, leaving behind a neighborhood torn apart by conflict. In that turmoil, a lone house stood defiant against the backdrop of destruction. Within its walls resided William Riley, known affectionately as Sarge from his days in the military. Despite the city's evacuation, Sarge remained steadfast in his home, unwilling to abandon the place he held dear. When the Zars gang claimed victory over their rivals, they targeted Sarge's home for tagging, unwilling to let them defile his sanctuary. Sarge confronted the intruders, sparking the ire of Mr. Zars himself. In a show of dominance, Zars demanded tribute from Sarge, stripping him of his meager provisions and ravaging his home. Retreating to his hidden shelter, Sarge reflected on the memories embedded within the walls of his home, from happier times with his beloved wife to the harrowing experiences of war. Despite the despair gripping the city, he remained committed to aid his neighbors in any way he could. Elsewhere in Gotham, the police clashed with the likes of Mr. Freeze and his cohorts, achieving fleeting victories before succumbing to the onslaught of the Croc gang. Back at Sarge's home, confrontation ensued as intruders attempted to pilfer his dwindling supplies. Armed with nothing but a bayonet rifle, Sarge found himself at an impasse until unexpected saviors intervened. Joker and his gang jumped in and killed the intruders. He declared himself the new ruler of the neighborhood. Though sparing Sarge's life, he claimed a token of victory in the form of the old man's rifle. As the Joker and his henchmen departed, leaving chaos and carnage in their wake, Sarge remained determined to weather the storm within the walls of his beloved home, despite the tragedies that surrounded him. The visitor from another planet. In the midst of Gotham City struggles, Superman swooped in to thwart the oppressive demands imposed by the Mad Hatter on its citizens. Witnessing the arrival of the Man of Steel, Batman wasted no time in approaching him, telling him to depart from Gotham's troubled streets. However, Superman remained resolute, adamant that the people of Gotham required his aid and refusing to turn his back on them. Before parting ways, Batman issued Superman a challenge to make the most of the next 24 hours, dedicating himself to acts of benevolence before they met again in the same place. Accepting the task, Superman set out to make a tangible difference, starting with the restoration of power to a portion of the city's grid alongside an electrical engineer. The engineer began rewriting the whole city, block by block, manually. However, their efforts were soon disrupted by the arrival of Mr. Freeze, intent on seizing control of the power station. As Superman confronted the icy villain and stopped him, a group of armed men turned to the electrical engineer for guidance, viewing him as their new leader in the wake of the restored electricity. In a gesture of gratitude, the citizens of Gotham began to offer tributes to the engineer in exchange for his assistance, while they were bullied by the armed men in the name of order. Returning to the scene, Superman realized the deeper-rooted issues plaguing Gotham, understanding that mere heroics wouldn't suffice to bring about lasting change. Recognizing the necessity for the city's inhabitants to take a stand for themselves, Superman sought counsel from Batman, pondering the daunting task of reclaiming Gotham from its descent into chaos. With uncertainty looming, Batman could offer no easy answers, but held on to hope that a solution would eventually reveal itself. Baby steps. In an effort to draw out Batman, the GCPD encountered Batgirl instead. Gordon tasked her with delivering a message to her boss. Batman was unwelcome in Blue Boy territory. Meanwhile, Penguin found himself facing unexpected competition when post-NML-dated food began appearing. During his patrol, Batman stumbled upon a violent altercation where a man seemed to be fatally attacking another. However, upon closer inspection, Batman discovered the supposed victim had been dead for days. Questioning the assailant's motives, Batman learned he sought refuge in prison for safety and sustenance, leaving Batman perplexed. In another encounter, Batman intervened in a dispute between two women vying for custody of an infant. Since the women were too violent to handle the baby, Batman took it under his custody. Later, while taking care of the baby on a rooftop, Batgirl relayed Gordon's message to Batman, which depressed him more, knowing that his friend had gone against him. After Batgirl relayed Gordon's message, Alfred shared a poignant tale from his past with Batman, urging him to consider the baby's future. Later, Alfred shared an incident of Thomas Wayne's life, where he had to break into a drugstore to get a drug to save a boy, and was later blackmailed by the owner of that store. Following Alfred's advice, Thomas confronted the owner, accompanied by Alfred dressed up as a policeman. He took the piece of evidence that the owner had on him and burned it. He kept true to his oath, even if he had to bend the rules to get the criminal. Inspired by the tale, Batman returned the baby to the two quarreling women. He challenged them to put aside the differences for the child's sake. Moved by his words, the women agreed to work together, revealing the baby's name to be Thomas, just like Bruce's father. Dance of Death. In the shadows of Gotham City, a new terror stalked the streets. An assassin known as the Death Dancer, whose deadly dance claimed victims with blades concealed in tap dance shoes. Azrael, still on the hunt for Scratch, the Joker, and Calibax, encountered an old man. When he got him back to his home, he found that his son had let him out so that he and his daughter could survive on what's left. Moved by their plight, Azrael provided what little sustenance he had and vowed to return with more. Along the way, he rescued a drowning boy and faced down a street gang, only to be betrayed by his young companion. Yet, in a twist of fate, the boy redeemed himself, offering Azrael supplies to aid their journey. Tragedy struck anew when Azrael discovered the old man dead, a victim of the Death Dancer's gruesome method. Grief-stricken and fueled by rage, Azrael's fury subsided upon realizing the young girl was not feeling well. He told the boy to share his food with the family and take refuge in their home. Meanwhile, the Death Dancer continued his deadly crusade, convinced he was delivering mercy to those he deemed suffering. Seeking refuge and answers, Azrael sought out Oracle, breaking into her tower with Batman's guidance. Despite the breach, Oracle recognized Azrael and extended hospitality, sharing a meal and forging an unexpected bond. As they ventured into the streets, Oracle confided in Azrael, revealing her feelings and fears. Surprised yet touched by her admission, Azrael reassured her, cementing their newfound sibling-like relationship. Unbeknownst to them, the Death Dancer lurked nearby, his twisted sense of mercy driving him to target Oracle. As tears of joy fell from her eyes, the assassin saw only an opportunity to deliver what he believed to be a final act of kindness. The Last Dance. The Death Dancer continued his deadly spree, leaving behind a trail of horror. One tragic victim was a child's aunt, slain before the boy's eyes, leaving him wandering the streets of Gotham, his sweater stained with blood. Seeking answers, Azrael turned to Barbara, hoping for insight into the mysterious deaths. Though Barbara had no leads, she suggested consulting Dr. Tompkins. Azrael ventured to Leslie's medical center in Crime Alley, encountering trouble along the way. In a display of prowess, Azrael dispatched armed assailants, but Leslie intervened, urging restraint. As Azrael recounted the recent tragedies to Leslie, they were interrupted by the arrival of the orphan child. Led to the scene of his aunt's murder, Azrael identified the killer as the Death Dancer, igniting a pursuit. Later, Azrael encountered a man pleading for aid for his trapped wife. With Azrael's help, they rescued the woman, earning Leslie's forgiveness for his earlier violence. Together, they raced to save the woman's life, performing emergency surgery at Leslie's center. During the tension, Leslie shared information about a suspect named Alvin Cothers, whose background aligned with the killer's profile. Meanwhile, Barbara encountered Cothers, aka the Death Dancer, a chilling figure with a penchant for pain. As Cothers threatened Barbara, Azrael intervened, engaging in a fierce battle to thwart the Death Dancer's murderous intentions and subdued the killer. Despite sustaining injuries, Azrael sought solace at Leslie's, where words of wisdom and healing awaited. Together, they tended to the wounded, their bond strengthened by the shared pursuit of justice in the face of darkness. While everyone thought that all was lost in the broken city, hope shone throughout in small flames. All the heroes had come back, but they'd not come together yet. Not until they'd amassed what they lost from their lives. Not until they'd given everything up for their beloved city. And what awaited them was the worst. Chapter 5. No Man's Land. Call to War. Divided, we stand. In the chaos of No Man's Land, Gotham City became a fractured landscape, divided among various factions vying for control. In the turmoil, an unexpected alliance formed between Two-Face and Penguin. Two-Face agreed to cede Batman's territory to Penguin in exchange for freedom to expand his own domain westward, encroaching on James Gordon's jurisdiction. Batgirl, acting on Batman's behalf, sought Oracle's aid for information, only to be met with Oracle's insistence on speaking directly to Batman. Later, Batman arrived at Oracle's apartment, where she warned him of brewing trouble at City Hall, suspecting it to be a trap. Despite her warnings, Batman had made up his mind to go to the City Hall. Meanwhile, Gordon devised a risky plan to seize Penguin's territory, fully aware of the odds stacked against them. In Blackgate Prison, Two-Face struck a dangerous deal with a Russian inmate, Isabella Cheranova, aka Echo. aiming to seize control of Gotham City. Gordon enlisted the reluctant aid of Renee Montoya in a morally grey endeavor, each struggling with the weight of their actions. Leaving Batgirl in charge of his turf, Batman headed to City Hall, where he stumbled upon a spectacle: a brutal fight between Rhino and Echo, the same woman who had struck a deal with Two-Face earlier. Just as the clock struck 12, chaos erupted across the city. Gordon and his boys got ready for full frontal assault with Penguin in his grip. Batman struck down Rhino to protect the woman, only to fall prey to her unexpected betrayal. United, we win. Chaos reigned in Gotham City as factions clashed for dominance. Two-Face led 200 of his followers uptown, while James Gordon and the Blue Boys made a move on Penguin's turf in the South Border. In retaliation, Penguin launched an assault on Batman's territory. Meanwhile, Batgirl stood her ground, guarding Batman's domain in his absence. Unbeknownst to his allies, Batman was held captive elsewhere by a formidable foe named Echo, a Russian woman with mind-reading abilities. Penguin arrived at Batman's stronghold, demanding Batgirl surrender, but she defiantly struck him down with an arrow. Two-Face revealed Penguin's betrayal and forced him to retreat. With Penguin's territory already seized by Gordon and Two-Face, Batgirl realized she was outnumbered and retreated as well. Meanwhile, Batman broke free from Echo's captivity, but not before reliving the traumatic memory of his parents' murder. Despite Echo's momentary empathy, she released him, allowing Batman to return to his territory. Upon his return, Batman was confronted with the harsh reality. He was just delayed by Echo for a handful of hours. It was to enable Two-Face to take control of Batman's domain. Two-Face had left dead bodies as a taunting message. It read, "Tails, you lose." The Devil's Backbone. In the somber atmosphere of Gotham Cemetery, Batgirl trailed behind Batman as he paid respects to those fallen in the wake of Two-Face's brutality. Though she tried to remain unseen, Batman's solemn words halted her retreat. "I trusted you," he uttered before vanishing into the night, leaving her with a pang of guilt. Meanwhile, Barbara Gordon, now Oracle, had taken an orphan girl under her wing. She taught the young girl the basics of reading and speaking. However, the lesson on the word stop was interrupted by the arrival of Commissioner Gordon. As the girl departed, she witnessed a costumed figure entering a nearby building. The man, an assassin, prepared to target Gordon with a sniper rifle, but the girl stood directly in front of Gordon, shielding him. The assassin was surprised and went into a state of overwhelming emotion seeing that girl. In his state, he was even shot, but he managed to kill a policeman and escape. Elsewhere in Gotham, Batman confronted Two-Face, dispensing justice in his own unorthodox manner. Emulating Two-Face's own methods, Batman left the fate of his adversary to chance, warning Harvey Dent not to force his hands. Back at Barbara's residence, Commissioner Gordon interrogated the girl who had saved his life. Through a drawing, she revealed the identity of the assassin as David Kane, recognized by a distinctive mark. Shockingly, she gestured that she was Kane's daughter. She suddenly closed the door and locked everyone in and ran outside. Kane was already there. Kane shot at her, but intentionally missed. The girl took out Kane's gun and hit him with a lethal throat punch that she'd used on the one she'd killed. But Kane kept pushing, and the girl unleashed a surprising command to stop, a word she'd learned earlier from Barbara. Kane was surprised and in tears, realizing that his daughter could speak. He held out his arms to embrace her. In a moment of defiance, she tackled her own father, sending them both crashing through a window, leaving a stunned Gordon and Barbara to process the extraordinary events unfolding before them. Assassins. While the little girl tackled her father Kane out of the window, Batman was on a recon mission outside the building. He instantly jumped into action when he saw that it was Kane that Two-Face had hired to take Gordon out. Kane caught the little girl, and Batman caught Kane with his bat rope, his hands bleeding from the load. However, both Kane and the girl escaped. Following the girl to a graveyard, Batman stopped her. He was startled to find that the girl was Kane's daughter, the very man who once trained him in deadly martial arts. The little girl spoke to Batman in sign language and the language of violence. She tested him with familiar moves from the teachings of Kane in order to ensure that Batman could stop her father. Later, Batman confronted Kane on a rooftop and a deadly brawl ensued. Teacher and student, one ready to kill and the other who had vowed never to. Tallyman was actually acting on the orders of Two-Face and had gathered to dole out their fair share of justice on the people they thought should be punished. Two-Face flipped his coin, but was interrupted by the little girl, masked and ready for combat. She took all of Two-Face's scarred silver dollars and used it to stop the fight between Batman and Kane. Later, in Barbara's apartment, Barbara showed her photo as Batgirl to the little girl and gave it to her as a gift, telling her that she was proud. Then Batman asked Barbara to send out a call to all the heroes in Gotham and bring them there. Young assistants. As Lagoon Boy attempted to enter Gotham City, he was met with a daunting obstacle, a fleet of submarines controlled by the Cobra cult. Despite their relentless assault with torpedoes, Lagoon Boy managed to evade their attacks and escape without serious injury. Meanwhile, in the Young Justice headquarters, Robin struggled with the frustration of being ousted from Gotham City by Batman. Stranded in Keystone City with his father, he found solace when Superboy and Impulse uncovered a loophole in Batman's directive. With Young Justice technically not banned from Gotham, they seized the opportunity to return, prompting Robin to follow suit aboard the supercycle. As Superboy and Impulse slipped past U.S. Marshals to enter Gotham, they stumbled upon a chaotic scene at the zoo, where smoke and flames drew their attention. Meanwhile, Robin swooped in to rescue Lagoon Boy from a hostile mob, extending an invitation for him to join their group. Uniting with their newfound allies just in time, they confronted a formidable foe, Ferak, a plant creature crafted by poison ivy. Their battle reached a critical point when Batman intervened, neutralizing Ferak with herbicide. His stern admonition made it clear that young Justice was unwelcome in Gotham. On their way out of the city, Lagoon Boy shared his harrowing encounter with the submarines, prompting Robin to halt the supercycle. Determined to make amends, they embarked on a mission to thwart the Cobra Cult's destructive plans. With the assistance of Lagoon Boy's Atlantean friend Blubber, they engaged the submarines in a fierce confrontation, ultimately preventing Gotham City from falling victim to the cult's biochemical weaponry. The Dark Road to Gotham. Hearing Barbara's call to aid in Gotham, both Robin and Nightwing journeyed toward No Man's Land. To avoid detection by the city's security forces, they navigated through the intricate network of old Gotham aqueducts and sewers, slipping into the city unnoticed. Meanwhile, in the murky depths of the Gotham sewers, Gearhead and Tommy Mangles forged an unlikely partnership. Piggybacking on Tommy, Gearhead used his brawn while he played the brains of the duo, preying on unsuspecting refugees. They terrorized and plundered, leaving behind a trail of fear and stolen supplies. Robin and Nightwing boarded makeshift subway carts and rode into the tunnels. In that chaos, a curious rat stumbled upon their activities and scurried back to Ratcatcher, signaling an alarming discovery. As Robin and Nightwing approached the exit point through the Clamberton siphon, they unwittingly caught the attention of Mangles and Gearhead. Swiftly, the nefarious duo launched an ambush, but Robin's quick reflexes and Nightwing's expertise enabled them to fend off the attackers. In a decisive move, Nightwing sent Mangles and Gearhead plunging into the waters below, clearing their path to the surface. Emerging from the sewer tunnels, Robin and Nightwing reunited with their allies, ready to join forces in the daunting task of restoring order to Gotham City. All hands on deck. While the others waited at Oracle's apartment, Batman went to meet Gordon on his terrace. He stood there while Gordon tended to his garden. Gordon immediately yelled and ordered Batman to leave. He was angry, as Batman, his friend, was not present when Gotham went to hell. Batman tried to warn him that Two-Face was not an ally, but Gordon told Batman that he thought the same about him. When Batman tried to reason further, Gordon punched him. Batman left with a heavy heart, and Gordon stayed back with one. Batman later took Nightwing with him to the current Batgirl's apartment, who was actually Huntress in disguise. He told her that he didn't approve of her ways. Even after warning her, she'd failed in all her tasks. Huntress blamed Batman for leaving her to fight 200 of Two-Face's men alone. Batman suggested that she should have done more. He forbade her from using the symbol of the bat anymore and told her to stay out of his way. Batman and Nightwing then went back to Barbara's apartment where Barbara, Azrael, Robin and Kane's daughter awaited. Batman introduced Kane's daughter to the whole team. She had no name then, but was later christened as Cassandra Kane. Batman gave everyone a mission. Barbara had to gather, interpret and disseminate tactical intelligence. Robin had to accompany Batman to Robinson Park, Nightwing had to bring Blackgate Prison under control in 48 hours, and Azrael had to find and stop Nicholas Scratch. Batman then gave Cassandra a Batgirl costume, a sacred trust, and Barbara implored her to honor it. She changed in the bedroom and appeared as the new Batgirl, while everyone looked in awe. Together, they jumped into the cold night to fulfill their assignments and fight the perils that lay ahead. Calm before the storm. A renegade from Penguin's ranks named Graf had taken Man-Bat's son Aaron Langstrom hostage for his unique ability to track food from long distances. Graf's agenda? To sell him to Penguin. Aaron's mother Francine asked help from Penguin but was refused. In a desperate bid to save her son, she took the Man-Bat serum and transformed into a bat. Batman tried to stop her, but she tracked down Aaron right when Graf was about to take his life. Francine tore off Graf's hand and also incapacitated Batman when he tried to stop her. Meanwhile, Penguin's goons attacked and killed Graf. In the aftermath, Batman asked Francine to stay out of trouble as they flew out to find refuge and warmth. Meanwhile, understanding that conventional means wouldn't help them win Gotham back, Batman used Oracle's help to broadcast globally the coverage of Gotham's struggles and its heroes by an individual named Jenkin Yates. It attracted the attention of people worldwide. Later, during a street fight with Killer Croc, Batman was unmasked while a psychiatrist named Dr. Patrick Kreider watched him from the shadows. Knowing that Batman was Bruce Wayne, he planned to trade the information in return for refuge and food. He went to Two-Face, his former patient, to strike a deal. However, Two-Face couldn't care less. In his eyes, the earthquake equalized everyone. Batman was now the same as them. He tossed his coin and made his decision. He shot Kreider and threw him off his building. Before Kreider could divulge the secret, irony reflected when Batman found Kreider's body and brooded over his deal with the devil. Azrael's mission, Undercover Angel. Azrael found himself lost in a vivid dream, a Wild West fantasy where Batman took the role of the Marshal, with Azrael as his trusty companion. In this surreal scenario, they faced off against the notorious Nicholas Scratch in a high-stakes duel, with Azrael emerging victorious. Dr. Leslie Tompkins roused him from his slumber, concerned for his well-being. Azrael had drifted off while searching for medical supplies for Leslie, only to stumble upon a gripping gunslinger novel that had inspired his dream. Elsewhere in the city, violence erupted as one man shot another, leaving the victim gravely wounded. Batgirl swiftly emerged, disarming the attacker and rushing the injured man to Leslie's medical center. Azrael, curious about the scene, asked Batgirl to lead him to where she'd found the wounded man. They encountered the attacker again, but this time Batgirl swiftly subdued him. Together, they brought the man to Leslie's, where the doctor was surprised to find him unharmed but unconscious. Azrael overheard the man mention someone named Nick, leading him to suspect the involvement of Nicholas Scratch. Batman soon appeared, reminding Azrael of his mission, to apprehend Scratch and bring him to justice. Batgirl was assigned to assist Azrael in this dangerous task, while elsewhere, Robin and Nightwing prepared for their own assignments from Batman. Setting out on their mission, Azrael made a promise to Leslie that he'd only resort to violence when absolutely necessary. They arrived at the location where Scratch was rumored to be, swiftly dispatching one of his guards. Azrael, adopting the guise of Jean-Paul, ventured inside while Batgirl kept watch outside. Within the hideout, Azrael witnessed Scratch rallying his followers, telling them about how he was turned into a demigod by an alien beam. He advocated for seizing control of the city through force. Playing his part, Azrael accepted a weapon from one of Scratch's men, only to realize that the man was someone they'd brought to Leslie's earlier. Caught in the act, Azrael attempted to flee, only to be confronted by Scratch himself. Face off. Jean-Paul found himself in a dire situation, captured by Nicholas Scratch and his fanatical followers, facing imminent death. Thinking quickly, he proposed to Scratch that it would be more impactful if he were to meet his end as Azrael, the avenging angel, rather than as an ordinary man. Surprisingly, Scratch entertained the idea and ordered Jean-Paul to be bound and beaten mercilessly until the break of dawn, when they planned to execute him. Meanwhile, Batgirl sprang into action, stealthily disarming Scratch's men. By the time they realized what had happened, she'd vanished. Spotting Jean-Paul, she attempted to free him, but he urged her to hold off, hinting at a plan he'd concocted. As dawn approached, Scratch prepared to carry out the execution, dressing Jean-Paul in the Azrael costume he'd brought along, minus the cowl. However, Scratch had a change of heart, opting instead for a more brutal punishment, stoning. In a defiant move, Jean-Paul insisted that Scratch place the cowl on him, transforming into Azrael and breaking free from his restraints. With incredible skill, Azrael deflected the onslaught of bricks hurled his way. Just as Scratch's followers prepared to shoot, Batgirl arrived, swiftly disarming them and neutralizing Scratch's henchmen. Scratch ordered his followers to attack Azrael and Batgirl, but they turned their backs on him, disillusioned. Azrael rallied the people and challenged Scratch to face him in combat. Overcoming Scratch with righteous fury, Azrael revealed his true face to the crowd. With justice served, Azrael and Batgirl set out to aid Dr. Tompkins by gathering medical supplies for the injured of No Man's Land. Back at Leslie's, Jean-Paul confessed to enjoying the violence inflicted upon Scratch, finding solace in Leslie's understanding. Together, they tended to the wounded, offering aid and hope. Nightwing's mission, Undercover Vigilante. Batman had let Lockup run the Blackgate Penitentiary after the earthquake, but Lockup had seized complete control since the dawn of No Man's Land, forming an unholy alliance with KG Beast and the Trigger Twins to tighten their grip over the inmates. As the chaos of No Man's Land raged on, Batman grew increasingly concerned about the dangerous potential brewing within Blackgate's walls. He tasked Nightwing with wresting control of the prison from Lockup's grasp. Though initially reluctant, Nightwing heeded Bruce's call after hearing his rationale. With Batman attending to other pressing matters, Nightwing turned to Oracle for intel before diving into the mission. Oracle uncovered a crucial detail. Clyde Greenlaw, a janitor under Lockup's employ, bore a striking resemblance to Nightwing. Seizing upon this opportunity, Nightwing plotted to infiltrate Blackgate disguised as Greenlaw. As Lockup ushered in new inmates, Nightwing, clad in scuba gear, made his clandestine entrance. Scaling the prison walls, he slipped through a crack and ventured into the heart of Blackgate. Meanwhile, in Bloodhaven, Chief Redhorn and his officers detained Nightwing, subjecting him to interrogation. Curiously, Redhorn seemed to empathize with Nightwing's cause. Back in Blackgate, Nightwing navigated the desolate and dilapidated corridors, searching for Greenlaw. Upon finding him, Nightwing revealed his plan to assume Greenlaw's identity, but Greenlaw balked at the idea of venturing into Gotham. His outcry alerted the Trigger Twins, who unleashed a hail of bullets in Nightwing's direction. Evading their onslaught, Nightwing encountered KG Beast, leading to a tense showdown. Employing his acrobatic prowess, Nightwing swiftly subdued his adversaries, only to be blindsided by a powerful electric shock from Lockup himself, alerted by Greenlaw's betrayal. Now at Lockup's mercy, Nightwing faced an uncertain fate within the bowels of Blackgate Penitentiary. Mission impossible. Lying motionless in the depths of Blackgate Penitentiary, Nightwing remained unconscious after Lockup's brutal attack. With a callous command, Lockup ordered the Trigger twins to transport Nightwing to the deepest, darkest depths of the prison, where the most dangerous inmates were confined. Despite their curiosity, Lockup forbade the twins from unmasking Nightwing. As Nightwing was lowered into the abyss, the Trigger twins attempted to strip him of any weapons concealed within his suit, only to be met with a jolting shock from its protective systems. Enraged by their failure, the twins unleashed their fury upon the fallen hero before casting him into the pit. Regaining consciousness in a sea of Blackgate's most hardened criminals, Nightwing faced a daunting challenge. With his agility and combat prowess, he engaged in a fierce battle against overwhelming odds. Yet, even as he sought escape, the imposing figure of KG Beast barred his path, forcing him back into the fray by using a seawater hose. While the others still rallied to kill Nightwing, Dr. Crane pointed out that Nightwing's presence indicated that Batman and Lockup had a fallout. That meant Batman was coming to Blackgate, or was already there. So, if they had Nightwing, they could escape. As per Nightwing's plan, Jervis Tetch informed Lockup that Nightwing was dead. Meanwhile, Lockup's anxiety mounted as he searched fruitlessly for Batman, while the inmates plotted their next move under Nightwing's leadership. In a desperate bid for freedom, Nightwing devised a daring plan, rallying the inmates to extract gunpowder from the prison walls. With the promise of explosive liberation looming, Lockup's grip on power faltered, and he resolved to quash the uprising at any cost, even if it made him kill everyone in the prison. Unbeknownst to him, Nightwing's ruse had set in motion a chain of events that would rock Blackgate to its core. Blackgate is mine. In the depths of Blackgate Penitentiary, chaos reigned as Garfield Lynns and the Dynamiteer clashed over the best approach to set up the charges for their escape. This violent altercation left Nightwing to weigh his options amid the impending explosion. On the other hand, in his determination to exterminate the inmates, Lockup resolved to drown them all, enlisting KG Beast's assistance in flooding the prison cellar with seawater. As the water surged into the room, Nightwing made a split-second decision to detonate the charges prematurely, blasting a hole through the wall to the next chamber, giving them time to gather. The next chamber had a well leading above as per the old blueprints. That was the escape route. The inmates followed Nightwing, but Lynns had the idea of exacting revenge from him. He swiftly ascended the pit using hanging chains, outmaneuvering his pursuers. However, his respite was short-lived as KG Beast descended upon him from above. Employing his acrobatic prowess, Nightwing evaded KG Beast and hurled him towards Lynns. KG Beast and Lynns fell down with the other inmates. Climbing out of the pit, Nightwing faced off against the Trigger twins before trapping them under a cascade of supply boxes. Despite his triumph, the toll of the ordeal weighed heavily upon him, leaving him drained and depleted. Summoning the Gotham City Police Department, Nightwing secured reinforcements under Mackenzie Bock's command to restore order to Blackgate. With the prison reclaimed as Batman's domain, a semblance of control was restored. Meanwhile, in Gotham, Oracle was startled by unusual sounds outside her window, only to find Nightwing barely clinging to consciousness, battered and broken. With his final strength, he implored Barbara to rectify a security flaw before succumbing to exhaustion in her arms. Batman and Robin's mission. A walk in a park. In the turbulent days of No Man's Land's infancy, Clayface orchestrated a clandestine meeting with Poison Ivy within the confines of Robinson Park. He tailed the kids that harvested Ivy's plants there and tried to attack them, luring Ivy out, proposing a partnership wherein Ivy would cultivate fruit with the aid of refugee children. While he managed its distribution throughout Gotham, Clayface sought to strike a deal. However, Ivy never stood for monetary gains. She suggested Clayface seal their agreement with a kiss, intending to kill him with her poison kiss. However, her scheme took an unexpected turn, leading to unintended consequences. In the present day, Oracle relayed concerning reports of children spotted within the depths of Robinson Park to Batman. Swiftly, Batman and Robin ventured forth to investigate, but not before Batman sought intelligence from the Penguin, uncovering Clayface's involvement in Ivy's fruit distribution enterprise. Meanwhile, there was a hostage situation in the Blue Boys territory. A few of the Black Mask gang had taken some innocent hostages and demanded the freedom of the imprisoned gang members. With just one warning, Lieutenant Pettit unleashed his machine gun on the gang, killing them as well as the hostages. Witnessing this, Gordon, Montoya and the others remained dumbfounded. Within the ranks of the GCPD, internal strife brewed, resulting in a division within the department. Loyalty divided, with steadfast officers aligning themselves with James Gordon, while renegades rallied under Pettit's banner. Arriving at Robinson Park, Batman and Robin stumbled upon a secret sanctuary constructed by Bruce Wayne during his absence when Dick Grayson took over as Batman. Following the trail, they were met with a harrowing sight. Poison Ivy and her young charges ensnared in Clayface's grasp. Clayface had imprisoned Ivy and was using her for the hefty produce, while taking the money all by himself. Earth to Earth. Deep within the labyrinthine confines of the Batcave beneath Robinson Park, Batman and Robin stumbled upon an unexpected tableau: poison ivy and a group of children encased in unyielding clay. With swift determination, Robin sprang into action, freeing the trapped youngsters, while Batman sought answers from Ivy, the enigmatic botanist. Ivy told Batman that she took care of the kids who were abandoned on Black Monday until Clayface captured her. He didn't give Ivy enough sunlight or water and kept feeding her salt in order to keep her weak. She asked Batman to free her. In return, she'd help Batman reach his computer stash and armory in the cave below. Batman reluctantly agreed. Elsewhere in Gotham, Helena Bertinelli, embittered by Batman's directives, cast aside her Batgirl guise in favor of her former identity as Huntress, venturing into the city shadows. She crossed paths with Pettit and Foley, two figures scheming to seize power in the chaos of No Man's Land. Despite initial conflict, Huntress found common ground with Pettit, forging an alliance forged in desperation and defiance. Back in the heart of the Batcave, Batman struggled to free Ivy as Clayface drew near, his presence looming ever closer. On the surface, the children confided in Robin that they wanted to stay in the park. With Ivy's strength waning, Batman devised a daring plan, enlisting Robin to set up some heavy-duty explosives to clear the path so that sunlight could come in. As dawn broke, Clayface descended upon the cave, prompting a fierce confrontation with Batman. In a moment of reckoning, Batman unleashed a calculated assault, triggering a cataclysmic chain of events that flooded the cave with sunlight and water. Emerging from the deluge, Ivy, revitalized and stronger than ever, seized control of the situation, signaling the final showdown. Batman and Clayface stood poised for battle, flanking Poison Ivy, who harbored her own agenda against the shape-shifting villain. With a sudden attack, Clayface lunged at Batman, but Ivy had devised a plan of her own. As Batman fumbled for a weapon, Ivy tapped into the forces of nature, fashioning a formidable battlesuit from the very vines and branches surrounding her. Taking advantage of the distraction, Batman seized a vial of liquid nitrogen from his utility belt, unleashing it upon Clayface. With the villain momentarily incapacitated, Batman and Ivy joined forces to navigate their way out of the cavern, where Robin awaited. As they emerged into the daylight, Batman ordered Robin to trigger a controlled explosion within the cave, hoping to weaken Clayface. However, Clayface proved unstoppable, already ascending to the surface. But Ivy, using her powers, impaled Clayface using plant roots and started making plants grow from within. Holding Batman off with vines, she delivered a fatal kiss, which instantly disintegrated Clayface, and he withered away amongst the green. In the aftermath, as Batman and Robin broke free from Ivy's grasp, they were met with a bittersweet scene. The abandoned children Ivy had cared for, now tended to by the reformed villainess within the burgeoning life of the park. It was also the first day of summer. Meanwhile, Gordon assigned Montoya to let Two-Face know that their partnership was over, but Two-Face held her captive. He met Gordon and warned him to stay away. Elsewhere in Columbia, a clandestine pact was struck as Bane reluctantly agreed to return to Gotham at the behest of Lex Luthor's assistant, Mercy Graves. In Robin Park, Batman granted Ivy clemency under strict conditions, tasking her with stewardship of the park and its inhabitants, and also the task of releasing produce on Tuesdays and Fridays. Later, Batman and Robin sought counsel from Oracle, who devised a plan to retrieve crucial backups stored outside Gotham. Reluctantly enlisting the aid of Selina Kyle, they embarked on a perilous gambit to safeguard their interests. Catwoman's mission: Cats and Curiosities. Catwoman's caper in Manhattan took an unexpected turn when the stolen cat gem transformed into a holographic communicator, revealing Oracle's message from Batman. Catwoman had to break into Gotham and be there at Robinson Station at 12. Fuming, Catwoman raced to escape the building before the NYPD arrived, but her temper triggered the alarm. Using her resourcefulness, she commandeered a news helicopter to evade capture, determined to confront Batman for his interference. In Gotham, 3 henchmen, Al, Lewis, and Mad Mookie, awaited orders from their employer, Mercy Graves, to secure an old steam tunnel for their nefarious mission. Meanwhile, Catwoman's escape plan encountered a deadly obstacle as a boat explosion diverted the Navy's attention, allowing her to slip into Gotham unnoticed. Arriving at Robinson Central Station, she confronted Batman, demanding answers. Batman tasked her to go back to Manhattan and retrieve disks that contained vital data for restoring Gotham. Catwoman was surprised and angry, as she thought Batman could have told her this on call also, but Batman assured her that this is a very secretive mission, which required an in-person information exchange. Their heated exchange escalated into a kiss, emblematic of their complex relationship. As Batman implored her assistance, Catwoman agreed on the condition of a secure entry and exit strategy. Following Batman's lead, Catwoman ventured into the abandoned steam tunnel, only to encounter Mercy's henchmen lying in wait. While Al and Lewis unleashed a barrage of bullets at Catwoman, Mookie in his mad trance shot at the explosives. This caused a blast, collapsing the tunnel and unleashing a torrent of water, which carried everyone away. 9 lives. Trapped in a flooding tunnel and being carried away by the torrents of water, Catwoman reminisced on how she got into her current situation, cursing Batman in her heart while trying to survive. Catwoman, Al, and Lewis had reached the tunnel's end but had found the exit hatch sealed. Together, they'd managed to pry it open, only to be swept outside by the force of the water. Regrouping outside, Catwoman had coerced the men into joining her crew. Al, Lewis, and Mookie now worked for her. En route to Manhattan, Catwoman dressed Mookie up as Countess Angora and herself as Angora's secretary, Venit. Al and Lewis were the bodyguards. With these aliases, they checked into an upscale hotel. While studying the briefing on the discs, Catwoman learned that the discs were supposed to be picked up by Bruce Wayne, but after the Washington fiasco, he went missing. The disc security was now entrusted to a group of ex-US armed forces with superhuman psionic abilities. They were called Hardcases Inc. The next day, posing as Ileana Goodbody, Catwoman had attempted to access the discs but had faced resistance from the Hardcases. Despite their suspicions, Catwoman's diversionary tactics had bought her time. Under cover of night, Catwoman had executed a plan, orchestrating distractions to gain access to the vault. With the help of hired thugs, she outwitted Nastacio's deception and had retrieved the discs, evading capture and leaving the Hardcases in disarray. Back at the headquarters, Hardcase leader Nastacio had realized Catwoman had outsmarted him. She knew that Nastacio had put fake discs in the vault, so she took the real ones and switched it with the fakes. He vowed to hunt her down. The mission fails. Catwoman unveiled the stolen discs to Al and Lewis, describing them as money and items of barter. Initially angered by Mookie's apparent sacrifice, her henchmen were relieved to learn he was alive and recuperating in their hotel room. She elaborated on Mookie's unique ability to absorb kinetic energy, rendering him impervious to harm but inducing a euphoric high. In Gotham, Oracle challenged Batman's trust in Catwoman and notified him of Catwoman's successful theft and subsequent auctioning of the discs online. Batman had already expected that something like this would happen. Meanwhile, Mercy Graves, behind the wheel, informed her employer of the auction and was tasked with securing the discs at any cost. Maxi Zeus also sought the discs, leveraging insider information from Catwoman's henchman Al, acquired through his ties to his crew. At their headquarters, the Hardcases deciphered Catwoman's plan, revealing her intent to exchange the discs atop the World Trade Center. Atop the tower, while Al, Lewis, and Mookie waited with the discs, both Maxi and Hardcases arrived with their crew. A clash ensued, resulting in chaos as Zeus's crew clashed with the Hardcases. Mookie's attempt to safeguard the package was thwarted, and the police eventually apprehended everyone, including Catwoman's crew. But the real discs weren't there. Catwoman had set up a secret meeting to sell it to Mercy. Catwoman met Mercy under the Brooklyn Bridge. It was a double cross. Mercy wanted to kill Catwoman. She took the discs and blinded Catwoman with phosphorus blasts. Catwoman was momentarily caught off guard but ultimately repelled her attack. When the Hardcases appeared, Mercy single-handedly shot and wounded all of them, including Catwoman. She absconded with the discs, leaving Catwoman injured and submerged in the East River. As Mercy briefed her employer on the situation, he disregarded Catwoman's survival, focusing on other priorities. Frozen. Batman arrived in Gotham City's Chinatown to find a chilling sight. Several gang members encased in solid ice. While investigating, another gang attacked him, subduing them effortlessly. Batman interrogated the last thug, standing about the frozen victims. The thug revealed that Mr. Freeze had attacked them when they encroached on his turf, and disclosed Freeze's location near the power plant. Approaching the power plant, Batman discovered Freeze's icy fortress and his use of stolen furniture to fuel the plant. Infiltrating the facility, Batman confronted Freeze in his castle. Freeze, consumed by memories of his late wife Nora, blamed Batman for her demise, vowing that his actions against Batman and Gotham were in Nora's honor. Batman attempted to reason with Freeze, but the encounter escalated into a confrontation. Dodging and parrying, the two adversaries exchanged words as they sized each other up. When Freeze unleashed his cold gun, Batman led him into a narrow corridor, where he disarmed Freeze with a well-aimed batarang. However, Freeze recovered, freezing Batman in a block of ice. As the castle began to crumble, Freeze realized the power plant was overheating. As the heat escalated, Batman freed himself, revealing that he'd engineered the meltdown. In the ensuing battle amid fire and ice, the power plant exploded, sending both Batman and Freeze plunging into the river. Emerging from the water, Batman took a look at Freeze, who floated on a block of ice, vowing to return. Batman watched as Freeze drifted away, his castle destroyed, declaring he would be waiting for Freeze's return. The heroes had gathered. Some of their missions succeeded, and some failed. They had to do everything in their power to save Gotham. Factions had formed amongst the GCPD. The villains awaited their turn to strike. The never-ending war was about to begin. Chapter 6. No Man's Land, Gotham War. Once there was a king. Batman intervened in a harrowing scene, rescuing a man from the Skinners, a gang of cannibals bent on his demise. As he ensured the man's safety, the iconic bat signal pierced the night sky, beckoning Batman to respond. Following the signal's glow, Batman encountered a girl and a priest who shared a desperate plea. They revealed their affiliation to a person known as the King of Gotham, a figure revered for his aid in their survival amid the city's chaos. The king provided essential resources, including medicine and clean water, and taught the handicapped kids how to create water filters. But he was missing. With scant leads on the king's whereabouts, Batman set out to find him. Meanwhile, a violent encounter unfolded elsewhere as two assailants brutalized the king, only to be interrupted by Killer Croc, who sought the king for his own reasons. As Batman investigated, he uncovered evidence of the king's influence across Gotham. Following a trail of subdued criminals, Batman discovered Croc's scales under one of their fingernails. Arriving at Babylon Tower's mall, Batman confronted Killer Croc in the midst of a fierce struggle while he was torturing King. Employing his combat skills, Batman thwarted Croc's assault and incapacitated the menacing villain. Subduing Croc, Batman learned the identity of the king, Stanley Demchasky, a former criminal seeking redemption through selfless acts of aid. Returning with Stanley to the refugee center, Batman introduced him to the populace as his friend Stanley, whose altruism shone as a beacon of hope in the city's darkest hour. Waterfront War. The Jets, a notorious street gang, descended upon a gas station and its beleaguered owner. Just as chaos threatened to consume them, Batgirl swooped in. With lightning speed, she subdued the attackers, sparing the gas station from imminent destruction, if only temporarily. Earlier, Batman had entrusted Batgirl with a critical mission, safeguarding the gas station to prevent loss of life. Vital to their cause was securing fuel for the hospital's generator. While Batman, Nightwing, and Oracle strategized at the Watchtower, they agreed to await dawn before intervening, knowing the night would test Batgirl's mettle. Despite the weight of responsibility, Batman harbored unshakable confidence in her abilities. As the clock neared 3 a.m., Batgirl ventured out, only to find the Jets had returned, armed to the teeth with a rocket launcher. By 4 a.m., they were readying for another onslaught. Undaunted, Batgirl sprang into action, swiftly neutralizing the gang. Yet, as tensions peaked, the Jets' leader, incensed by the station's depleted fuel supply, unleashed the rocket launcher, aiming for destruction. In a daring move, Batgirl shielded the station owner and a Jet from the blast, but the station lay in ruins. Consumed by anger and self-doubt, Batgirl unleashed her fury on the assailant. Yet the station owner's wisdom tempered her rage, reminding her of her principles. The gas had already run out. The owner just stayed there to keep in touch with his roots. In the aftermath, Batman commended Batgirl's bravery, emphasizing the significance of her actions. Grateful, the station owner offered her the last can of gasoline, a lifeline for the hospital. And as fate would have it, the very Jets they'd thwarted found themselves under the care of the hospital they'd threatened. Bane returns. As Bane drove back to Gotham City, memories of his past flooded his mind. The harsh upbringing in Peña Duro and the relentless years spent in Blackgate Penitentiary. To him, Gotham seemed like a prison for many, but for Bane, prisons felt oddly like home. Devising a cunning plan, Bane outwitted the U.S. Marshals, using a van filled with explosives to breach the city limits undetected. As the van hurtled across the bridge, street gangs poised for an attack, only to be caught off guard when Bane escaped after triggering a massive explosion. In the chaos that ensued, Batman was summoned to the scene. Tracking Bane's movements, Batman descended into the sewers and faced Bane. Within the clash of fists and explosions, Bane managed to outmaneuver Batman, slipping away into the darkness. Emerging from the depths, Batman encountered a nun who pointed him in Bane's direction. Confronting Bane once more, Batman was faced with an impossible choice: stop Bane or save the innocent nun. Without hesitation, Batman raced to rescue the nun, allowing Bane to slip through his fingers once again. As Bane strode through the city streets, a curious street gang confronted him, demanding to know his intentions. With unwavering confidence, Bane declared himself the King of Gotham. Hero against hunger. Following the beating by Nightwing, Tommy Mangles and Gearhead found themselves swept away by the currents of the sewers, landing in an unfamiliar section of the tunnels. Meanwhile, Batman tasked Robin with a crucial mission, uncovering the origin of the mysterious food circulating throughout Gotham. In the depths of the sewers, the displaced group revisited their stash of provisions, only to encounter a swarm of rats led by the infamous Ratcatcher. Fearing for their lives, they fled from the relentless vermin. Robin diligently questioned the citizens of Gotham, hoping to unearth clues about the origins of the food supply, but the leads were sparse. Outside the city, in the suburbs, Stephanie Brown returned home to find her mother Crystal sorting through her belongings. Stephanie's elation at regaining her physical fitness was short-lived as her mother confronted her about her secret identity. Back in Gotham, Robin finally tracked down the gang responsible for auctioning off the goods and coerced them into revealing the source, a hidden cache in the sewers. With determination, Robin ventured into the labyrinth once more, bracing himself for the unknown. Meanwhile, Mangles and Gearhead continued to wander the tunnels, growing increasingly lost with each passing moment. As Robin delved deeper into the sewers, he stumbled upon the Ratcatcher's sinister plot to unleash his army of rats on the city. Before he could react, Robin was ambushed by the rodents, finding himself outnumbered and in grave danger. Batboy vs. Ratman. Crystal Brown confronted her daughter Stephanie after discovering the spoiler costume among her belongings. Concerned about Stephanie following in her father's footsteps, Stephanie reassured her that Spoiler was one of the good guys. Stephanie shared tales of Spoiler's heroics and hinted at a connection to Robin, who had assisted her. Meanwhile, Robin found himself in the sewers facing off against the Ratcatcher and his legion of rats. Attempting to flee, Robin was overwhelmed by the swarm, prompting him to unleash a powerful electric jolt from his costume, dispatching the vermin. As he made his escape, the Ratcatcher intensified his pursuit, sending the remaining rats after Robin. Back at Stephanie's home, mother and daughter discussed Spoiler's exploits, but Crystal abruptly forbade Stephanie from donning the costume again. In another part of Gotham's sewers, Gearhead and Tommy Mangles consulted a map in their efforts to find their way. Emerging from the water, Robin found himself in the same spot moments later, exhausted and seeking refuge. Nearby, a group of youths tended to him, revealing themselves as survivors left behind in Gotham, forming a tribe called the Wolflings. As Robin recovered, the Ratcatcher, determined to exact revenge, set out his army of rats to locate him. Elsewhere, Tommy and Gearhead stumbled upon blocks of ice in the sewers and were soon confronted by Mr. Freeze himself, displeased by their intrusion. Little wins. Lost in the labyrinthine sewers of Gotham, Tommy Mangles and Gearhead fell into the clutches of Mr. Freeze. Freeze interrogated Gearhead, who spilled the beans about the stash of provisions stored in the sewers. In a chilling display of power, Freeze froze Gearhead solid before setting out to locate the cache. Meanwhile, Robin found refuge under the care of the Wolflings. Despite his illness, Robin tried to dissuade them from venturing into the sewers, but succumbed to exhaustion and fell asleep, pondering the origin of the ice they used to care for him. Elsewhere, the Ratcatcher crossed paths with Mr. Freeze, who pressed him for information about the food stash. Initially, Ratcatcher denied its existence, but then he caved under pressure and divulged its location. Robin awakened from a troubled dream to find himself feeling slightly better. Determined to stop the Wolflings from confronting the villains, he headed toward the storage room. Upon reaching the scene, he witnessed the Wolflings discovering the provisions but soon found himself facing off against Mr. Freeze and Ratcatcher. Taking swift action, Robin used makeshift weapons crafted by the Wolflings to disable Mr. Freeze's suit. Though initially successful, Robin's attempts to disable the suit further proved challenging. Meanwhile, the Wolflings' leader bravely confronted Ratcatcher, buying Robin time to strategize. In a bold move, Robin disabled Mr. Freeze by flooding the area with water, which froze around Mr. Freeze, immobilizing him. With the villain subdued, Robin contacted the authorities and Batman for assistance. Soon, Mackenzie Bok and the GCPD arrived, apprehending the criminals. Meanwhile, Batman and Batgirl observed the scene, impressed by Robin's bravery. Batman instructed Robin to rest while he tended to his wounds, carrying him away for some much-needed recuperation. Apparitions. In Park Row, Azrael intervened when three men attempted to pilfer supplies from the medical center. Despite his efforts to reason with them, they attacked him, prompting Azrael to subdue them before returning to Leslie's bunker. There, he confided in Leslie about the encounter, expressing his unease about resorting to violence. Concerned for his well-being, Leslie advised him to rest, noting his exhaustion after 3 days of vigilance. While navigating the streets, Azrael caught a glimpse of a fleeting shadow resembling his deceased father. Startled, he pursued the figure, only to encounter Mitzi Freedang, whom he'd aided previously. Mitzi explained that she was fleeing her deceased uncle Jerry and seeking her mother, who had vanished near the Gotham Gas Company building. Moved by Mitzi's plight, Azrael pledged to locate her mother. As he ventured into the gas building, he encountered a mysterious warning about gas leaks and learned that Mrs. Freedang had been fleeing into the main building. Pressing on, Azrael found himself confronted by a spectral manifestation of Saint Dumas, who urged him to pursue his desires and detach from his responsibilities. Despite Saint Dumas' persuasive words, Azrael dismissed the vision as a product of exhaustion and hunger. Upon awakening, Azrael followed Saint Dumas' guidance to find Mrs. Freedang and reunite her with Mitzi. He then embarked on a quest to locate a sunken boat near Dixon's Docks, contemplating the spirit's cryptic message. Ultimately, Azrael chose compassion over isolation, returning to Gotham to aid Mitzi and her mother. On the foggy river, They set sail, parting ways with gratitude and a kiss. Back at the medical center, Azrael resumed his duties alongside Leslie, who imparted wisdom gleaned from life's trial. Meanwhile, on the Gotham River, Mrs. Friedan and Mitzi found themselves enveloped in dense fog, sensing the ominous presence of Jerry lurking nearby. Power play. Batman became aware of unusual energy activity in Gotham City's Chinatown, reminiscent of encounters with Mr. Freeze. Investigating further, he encountered a grim scene, numerous lifeless bodies scattered around. Despite his thorough search for clues, Batman came up empty-handed. As he listened intently, Batman was drawn to a commotion nearby. There, he witnessed a remarkable display of skill as a woman named Lynx dispatched a rabid dog. Lynx, the lone survivor of a street gang conflict, initially attacked Batman, but they soon realized they shared a common enemy, an underground operation plaguing both their circle. Their investigation uncovered a harrowing truth. An organized crime syndicate was exploiting illegal immigrants, forcing them to generate energy by peddling static bicycle. Enslaved by their captors, the immigrants were subjected to modern-day slavery, a reminder of Lynx's own past working for King Snake. Determined to liberate the oppressed, Batman and Lynx confronted the criminals at a power plant. However, their noble intentions were met with fierce resistance as they found themselves surrounded by the gang's members. Batman and Lynx geared up for combat. Liberation. Batman and Lynx found themselves surrounded by the menacing members of the Fist of Heavenly Serendipity gang. Lynx defiantly attempted to provoke the gang into making mistakes. Jade faced Wu, dismissed her efforts, and ordered an attack. Undeterred, Batman and Lynx fought back ferociously, overwhelming their adversaries. In a bold move, Lynx charged straight for Wu, prompting Batman to follow suit. They confronted Wu in the main building, where the gang held illegal immigrants captive. Lynx's courageous fighting spirit inspired the oppressed immigrants, particularly a young girl named May. Despite their valiant efforts, Batman and Lynx found themselves outnumbered and fatigued, with Lynx beginning to falter against Wu's men. Sensing the danger, Batman swiftly intervened, pulling Lynx away from the fray. As they retreated, they observed Wu leaning against a broken window, watching them with an inscrutable gaze. Meanwhile, May, fueled by anger and inspired by Lynx's bravery, took matters into her own hands. After seeking medical advice for Lynx in Chinatown, she insisted on returning to the conflict zone against Batman's and the doctor's advice. Upon their return, they discovered the area eerily silent. Eventually, they learned that May had pushed Wu to his death, sparking a rebellion among the oppressed slaves. May was hurt in the uprising and died from her wounds. Devastated by the outcome, Lynx demanded answers from Batman, who solemnly explained the harsh realities of heroism. Disillusioned, Lynx vowed never to involve herself in such matters again. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Gotham City, Bane prepared vast quantities of explosives for his next target, the Gotham Hall of Records. Fool's Code. A new gang had seized control of Hosa's territory, sparking a fierce conflict between the rival factions. The Hosa were struck with terror upon recognizing the leader of the opposing gang, none other than the Joker, accompanied by his ever-faithful companion, Harley Quinn. While Joker instructed Harley to inspect their newly acquired stronghold, he recruited a new member named Josh, a talented artist, into their ranks without hesitation. As Harley scoured the building, she stumbled upon a pristine apartment on the 27th floor, untouched by looters. Among the items, she discovered a book titled The Code, Laws of L'amour, prompting her to rethink her approach to winning Joker's affection. Back at the hideout, Joker interrogated one of Penguin's henchmen as Harley returned, informing him of her plans to move into the apartment on the 27th floor, much to Joker's surprise. Meanwhile, Oracle briefed Batman on Joker's activities in the newly acquired territory, noting his provision of food and shelter to the locals and Harley's newfound independence. Batman, intrigued by these developments, chose to monitor Joker's next moves closely. In a surprising turn, Joker paid Harley a visit at her new apartment, only to be met with cold indifference. Despite her disdain, she intervened when their gang members were attacked by the Hosa on the streets below. Harley's quick thinking and acrobatic prowess saved lives, but the situation escalated when Joker unleashed his deadly Joker gas, resulting in a massacre. Back at their hideout, Harley proposed the idea of an election to improve Joker's public image, which he eagerly embraced. However, tension arose when Joker sensed a growing bond between Harley and Josh. After Harley departed, Joker's temper flared, warning Josh to steer clear of Harley before swiftly changing tactics and enlisting his help in creating campaign posters. Days later, Huntress stumbled upon campaign posters announcing Joker's bid for president of No Man's Land, with William Pettit as his opponent, sparking fear among the city's inhabitants. War of Jokes. In Gotham, the Joker, with Harley and Josh's assistance, meticulously crafted his election strategy. However, during the planning, Joker couldn't shake the feeling that Harley remained distant, and Josh's growing proximity to her only intensified his suspicions. Elsewhere in the city, a skirmish erupted between Billy Pettit's crew and Killer Croc's gang. During the gunfight, Huntress informed Pettit about Joker's electoral ambitions. Despite the news, Pettit seemed indifferent, delegating the matter to Huntress. Back at his lair, Joker brooded over his faltering plans and Harley's apparent disinterest. Determined to manipulate the election, Joker dispatched Josh to procure explosives and resolved to wed Harley Quinn. Later that evening, Huntress surveilled Harley's residence and observed Josh entering. Outside, Joker misconstrued their intention as romantic, fueling his fury and prompting him to orchestrate Josh's demise. Meanwhile, Joker lured Josh into a lethal trap and killed him using explosives. Witnessing the explosion from afar, Huntress rushed to the scene, while Harley, drawn by Joker's laughter, sought solace in his arms. In the aftermath, Oracle updated Batman on the turmoil in Joker's domain and that he'd escaped with Harley. Not without my babies. A hapless family, stranded and vulnerable, found themselves at the mercy of a ruthless street gang. But just when all hope seemed lost, hardback Mackenzie Bock and his valiant allies emerged. With Mackenzie leading the charge, they fought fiercely against the gang, shielding the innocent from harm. Batman joined the fray. He neutralized the last remaining threat. With the danger quelled, Mackenzie asserted his authority, warning the gang to steer clear of his territory. Batman silently acknowledged their bravery before vanishing into the shadows. Back at Westside High Refuge, Mackenzie sought comfort among his comrades. Among them was Vanessa DeVries, a skilled nurse facing a dire shortage of tetracycline for wounded children. Leveraging Vanessa's expertise, Bock and Vanessa secured the much-needed medicine by striking a deal with Penguin. As days turned into weeks, Mackenzie faced escalating challenges, culminating in a tragic accident that left him grievously wounded. Desperate for assistance, they once again turned to Penguin. But Penguin said he'd only help his kids get out of Gotham if Bock fought a cage fight with Angel. Before the brutal showdown against Angel, Mackenzie tapped into the teaching of his mentor, Alfonso, mastering the art of silo to endure the pain. With each move, he inched closer to perfection, driven by the hope of safeguarding the children in his care. Last train from Gotham, Mackenzie Bock squared off against Angel. Drawing upon the teachings of Alfonso DeVries, Mackenzie fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself, ultimately triumphing over his opponent in a ruthless display. With victory secured, Penguin was obligated to fulfill his end of the bargain, providing Mackenzie with crucial instructions for the night ahead. Later, Mackenzie and Vanessa DeVries rallied the children they were protecting, guiding them onto a bus destined for safety beyond the confines of Gotham City. Robin joined the convoy, offering protection as they navigated the perilous streets. Yet their journey was soon jeopardized as Angel and his gang ambushed the convoy. In a daring display of heroism, Robin fended off the attackers, buying precious time for the children to reach the underground train station. As the train embarked on its escape, Angel and his cohorts pursued relentlessly, with the situation growing dire. Penguin was compelled to intervene. Arriving just in the nick of time, Penguin's forces prevented the thugs from overwhelming the train. A tense confrontation ensued, with Mackenzie and Angel locked in a fierce battle atop the train's engine. In a desperate bid to halt their pursuit, Angel sabotaged the brakes, forcing Mackenzie to detach the train from its engine, resulting in a dramatic crash through Gotham's outer wall. Responding to the chaos, Gotham militia arrived on the scene, learning the truth behind the children's plight. Despite Angel's attempts to deceive them, justice prevailed as the marshals apprehended the criminals and ensured the children received the care they desperately needed. With the ordeal finally over, Mackenzie bid farewell to Vanessa and her father, his heart swelling with newfound hope. Returning to Gotham alongside Penguin, Mackenzie embraced his role as a protector, feeling more like a hero than ever before. Downtown dangerous. Tensions simmered as Bane found himself confronted by a trio of street thugs. Bane killed two of them, sparing the life of the remaining girl. With a stern command, he compelled her to accompany him on his mission. Together, they ventured into the depths of a dilapidated building, Bane coercing the girl to lead the way, a human shield against potential traps. Fortunately, their path was clear, leading them to a hidden vault brimming with weaponry. Bane claimed a monstrous gun for himself, tasking the girl with the burden of the remaining arsenal. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin patrolled the city streets, quelling illicit activities and pondering the enigmatic presence behind Gotham's recent turmoil, the so-called outside interest. As Bane and his reluctant companion traversed the city, they crossed paths with rival street gangs. Unleashing a hail of bullets, Bane decimated their foes, leaving behind grim calling cards of Ace of Spades. Penguin's henchmen thought this to be the mark of Two-Face. In the chaos, Two-Face found himself besieged by vengeful gangs, retaliating with equal ferocity. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin heeded Penguin's summons. Penguin unveiled a sinister pattern in the attacks, with street gangs being manipulated to go against Two-Face and corner him on his turf. As Two-Face battled against overwhelming odds, Bane set his sights on the Hall of Records, intent on erasing Gotham's history. With the girl by his side, Bane geared up to level the Hall of Records to the ground. collision course. As Two-Face found himself besieged by vengeful gangs, his desperate struggle for survival was interrupted by a chilling message from his henchmen at the Hall of Records. Bane had launched a brutal assault, raining down heavy artillery upon Two-Face's stronghold. With his machine gun depleted, Bane resorted to grenades, decimating Two-Face's men before breaching the Hall's defenses. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin observed the chaos, torn between apprehending Bane and rescuing Two-Face from imminent peril. In his stronghold, Penguin had mixed emotions, uncertain of the implications of the unfolding events. Within the Hall of Records, Bane and his accomplice planted radioactive explosives. As the countdown to destruction began, Two-Face's grip on power waned, his fate teetering on the brink as the gangs closed in. The gangs lifted him up with a rope to be hanged. In a daring rescue attempt, Batman and Robin swooped in, engaging the gangs in a frenzied battle. With Robin freeing Two-Face, Batman faced off against the gang members. In the ensuing melee, Two-Face seized the opportunity to flee, vanishing into the night. As the last thug fell, Bane's plot reached its devastating climax, and the Hall of Records was engulfed in a cataclysmic explosion. With Gotham shaken to its core, Bane released his captive, charging her with spreading the word of his ruthless deed. In the aftermath, Batman and Robin surveyed the smoldering ruins, thinking hard about Bane's action. Surrounded by the radiation-laden aftermath, Batman revealed his calculated strategy, intent on drawing out the true mastermind behind the devastation, who focused on sacrificing the city's historical records. He promised to unmask the outside interest. Life in Neverland. In the lawless domain of Gotham, Flowers, a desperate man, struck a deal with the notorious gangsters, the Phantoms. Offering a fortune in jewels and money, he begged for passage out of the Forsaken City. Led by the gang's leader, Shank, Flowers was escorted to a hidden railway door, his ticket to freedom. But as he stepped inside, he discovered a horrific sight, a place filled with emaciated souls driven to cannibalistic madness by hunger, ready to devour him. Meanwhile, Shank revealed his schemes with his partner Delphine, plotting riches from their ill-gotten gains. The riches would come to their use when Gotham would be redeemed. Their plans for wealth were interrupted when Batman's investigation led him to confront Shank's illicit operations. Shank had women, children, and the old working for him to produce food. He sold them at exorbitant prices. Batman contacted Shank in his disguise of Matches Malone, seeking an exit from the city. However, soon Malone faced the horror of the cannibalistic inhabitants of the trap. In a desperate bid for survival, he put on his Batman garb, rallying the terrified populace. In a showdown at the Phantom's hideout, Batman confronted Shank and his thugs, aided by the cannibals he'd liberated. He subdued them with ease. Justice prevailed as Harvey Bullock apprehended the criminals. While Shank met his fate, Delphine was left destitute on the streets, her ill-gotten gains offering no solace in a city ravaged by desperation and despair. Superman returns. Beyond the borders of Gotham City, the Gotham militia caught a peculiar gust of wind, dismissing it as a mere weather fluctuation. Meanwhile, that gust swept through the city, passing notable landmarks before settling in a nondescript alley. It was none other than Superman, moving at lightning speed. Swiftly, he altered his appearance, donning a tattered guise as Clark Kent, hoping to blend in. However, a certain vigilante sensed his presence. As Clark roamed the city streets, he stumbled upon an abandoned orchard. Utilizing his X-ray vision, he discovered some seeds buried beneath the soil. Clark offered his assistance, sharing his agricultural insights with the owner, James Wendell. He learnt from James that there was no stored water and no rain. James and Clark ventured to the Blue Boys community garden to take a look at the plants. Along the way, he encountered a young girl on stakeout for Oracle, only to be interrupted by the deranged Billy Pettit and his gang. Pettit tried to make all of them afraid with his presence. Clark attempted to reason with Pettit and his men, but the girl warned him of their true nature, leading to a violent confrontation. Pettit shot at the girl, but Clark melted the bullet using his heat vision. He sensed Batman's presence and let him take over. Batman subdued Pettit and his army and led James and the little girl home. After the altercation, Batman questioned Clark's return to Gotham, skeptical of his motives. Clark admitted concern over rumors of trouble brewing and the drought affecting the city's crops. He assured Batman that he was visiting solely as Clark and not Superman. He had learnt his lesson from the previous visit when he threw all variables off the chart. He fixed the problem of low cumulonimbus in the stratosphere and promised Batman that it was going to rain soon in Gotham. Clark bid his goodbye, telling Bruce to take care of himself. Bruce stood in the community garden alone, and then, after months, it started raining in Gotham. I am Gotham. Once upon a time, in the sprawling streets of Gotham City, there lived a man named Jason Brown. But Jason's life took a sharp turn when a bat, perhaps touched by some strange magic, bit him in the aftermath of a powerful earthquake. Later, Gotham was declared a no-man's land, but Jason's plans to flee were interrupted by a voice echoing inside his head, urging him to stay put. It wasn't just any voice, it was Gotham speaking directly to him. assigning him a crucial task before the clock struck midnight. The voice led him to Oracle. Although initially hesitant, Oracle told him that the spirit he searched for was a cowled angel in Gotham Graveyard. But Jason's journey was far from easy. He crossed paths with dangerous figures like Penguin and his thugs, narrowly escaping thanks to a timely intervention by Poison Ivy. Yet, as he pressed on, Jason's health began to fail him, his vision blurring. Two-Face joined Jason on his quest, leading him to the cemetery where the angel statue stood sentinel. Two-Face attempted to shoot Jason from behind, but he was stopped by the Huntress. Jason's strength waned, and as he reached the angel statue, he felt his spirit slipping away. In his final moments, Jason's mind conjured the image of Batman, yet the voice in his head persisted, reminding him of his solemn duty to Gotham and giving him permission to leave. In reality, Jason was dying from rabies, and Oracle had sent him on his final journey. With a smile on his lips, Jason passed away, his spirit merging with the countless shining bats that guarded the city's secrets and watched over its inhabitants. Bird fight. In the shadowy depths of Gotham sewers, Killer Croc plotted his next move with his ruthless gang. Their target? Penguin's territory, a stepping stone to seize control of the entire city. Meanwhile, deep within the makeshift Batcave, Alfred tended to Tim, who had just recovered from a harrowing mission. Tim reached out to Dick Grayson, recuperating under Barbara Gordon's watchful eye, only to receive troubling news from Stephanie Brown, alias Spoiler. His secret identity had nearly been exposed, leaving Tim jittery about his own prolonged absence from home. In Keystone City, Tim's father, Jack Drake, fretted over his missing son, contemplating tough measures upon his return with his wife, Dana. Sensing turmoil above ground, Tim ventured out as Robin to investigate. But as Croc's forces surged towards Penguin's turf, Robin found himself outmatched. Despite his valiant efforts, Robin was overpowered and captured by Croc's henchmen, leaving Alfred anxiously listening in through their radio connection. A messenger arrived, bearing a plea from Penguin to Commissioner Gordon for aid. Harvey Bullock, Renee Montoya, and a handful of officers rushed to assist, only to find themselves facing an unexpected dilemma. Croc had taken Robin hostage, using the young hero as a shield in his advancing onslaught. Last stand. As the tension reached its peak in Gotham's underworld, Killer Croc, with Robin held captive, marched toward Penguin's stronghold, shielding himself from retaliation. The GCPD intervened, deploying vomit gas bombs that momentarily halted Croc's advance, providing Alfred the chance to rescue Robin. Unaffected by the gas, Croc launched toward Penguin, whose desperate shot merely tore the brute's attire, further enraging him. Just as Croc threatened Penguin, Harvey Bullock arrived, attempting to subdue the beast alongside Montoya, but to no avail. In a daring move, Robin sprang into action, outwitting Croc and trapping him within a car. Despite Croc's immense strength, Robin cleverly turned the tables, incapacitating him to the astonishment of Bullock, Montoya, and Penguin, who were grateful for the young hero's intervention. In the aftermath, Tim contemplated his next move, torn between his duties as Robin and the impending confrontation with his father. Exhausted and conflicted, he sought solace in rest, guided by Alfred's advice. Elsewhere, Stephanie Brown struggled with her own inner turmoil, and Jack Drake, driven by paternal concern, sought a means to aid his son. Yet, as Tim slumbered, Batman's grim revelation shattered his brief respite. His father's actions had thrust him into the media spotlight, highlighting him as a boy lost in no man's land, and people were being rallied to bring him back home. The heroes got together and took a lot back from the hands of nature that had thrusted the curse upon their beloved city. Now, there was only one thing to take back: Gotham itself. Chapter 7, No Man's Land, Endgame. Leslie's monster. As night fell over Park Row, Leslie Tompkins awoke from a troubled slumber, haunted by visions of a monstrous threat looming over her medical center. Urgently, she ventured into the night, tending to her patients. She met Mikey, who was looking after a tied-up Zas. As Leslie tended to the injured, Killer Croc emerged from the shadows, concerned about his Stumpy, whom Zas stabbed. Fueled by fury, Croc's rage threatened to spill over, but Leslie's calming words persuaded him to bide his time outside. Yet, the tranquility shattered as bullets rang out, driving Croc into retreat. Pettit and his rogue officers descended upon the scene, mistakenly viewing Croc as the primary threat. Inside the medical center, chaos reigned as Zas, even in his unconscious state, posed a danger to all. Despite Huntress's objections, Leslie tended to Zas's wounds, a decision that drew Batman's dismay upon his arrival. Outside, tensions escalated as Pettit and Huntress clashed over a firearm, but the arrival of Batman quelled the chaos. Meanwhile, Zas woke up and advanced toward Leslie, preparing to kill her. But Leslie remained strong and denied acting out of violence. Just then, Croc attacked Zas and Batman helped incapacitate him. Reflecting on her dream, Leslie found solace in forgiving Batman for using violence. Batman was her monster, and she promised to work on his pain as he worked on saving Gotham. Caged, held captive in the courthouse alongside her brother, Renee Montoya faced a daunting proposition when the enigmatic tallyman summoned her to meet the bus. Though her brother attempted to intervene, he was swiftly subdued. Led into the main chamber, Renee encountered Two-Face, who awaited her with a spread prepared by her own mother. Suspicious but compelled to play along, Renee listened as Two-Face outlined his demands. He furnished her with a uniform, hinting at a role she must play. Meanwhile, Two-Face's scheme unfolded elsewhere as he and his gang infiltrated Blue Boy's territory, targeting Commissioner Gordon's home. In a swift and calculated strike, Two-Face seized Gordon, leaving chaos in their wake as his henchmen engaged the arriving police force. Elsewhere in Gotham, Batman and Robin confronted Penguin, seeking answers about his dealings with Mercy Graves. As they departed to address the attack on Gordon, they learned that Mercy had given Penguin a cement mixer for urban development. Back at the courthouse, tensions mounted as Renee donned the uniform, uncertain of the role fate had cast her in. In a chilling courtroom scene, Two-Face presided over a trial of his own making, with Renee, Gordon and himself as the key players. Though torn by conflicting loyalties, Renee ultimately complied, realizing the stakes extended far beyond her own reservations. With the trial underway, Renee braced herself for a harrowing confrontation that could reshape Gotham's fate. Lawless. As Two-Face's twisted trial against James Gordon commenced, the stakes soared to terrifying heights. With Gordon's life hanging in the balance, Two-Face laid down his grim ultimatum. Guilt would mean death not just for Gordon, but for his loved ones and those under his protection. Renee Montoya, however, managed to wrangle a semblance of justice from the chaos, extracting a promise from Two-Face to spare lives if Gordon were acquitted. In the turmoil at the Gordons' besieged home, the GCPD scrambled to rescue Sarah from the clutches of Tallyman, while Batman and Robin watched from the shadows, their minds racing to mobilize assistance. Inside the courthouse, the trial unfolded, with Renee taking the stand as Two-Face's first witness. Accusations flew as Two-Face painted Gordon as a manipulative figure, abusing his authority. Yet, as Gordon himself faced interrogation, the tide shifted with Harvey Dent stepping in as his unexpected defender. In a gripping showdown of wits, the Dent persona dismantled Two-Face's facade of justice, laying bare his own culpability in the twisted scheme. Two-Face's resolve crumbled, conceding defeat to Renee's unwavering determination. Outside the courtroom, Gordon returned to a tranquil home, saved by the timely arrival of reinforcements led by Batman. In that moment of relief, Gordon and Batman shared a pivotal moment, recognizing the need for candid conversation in the aftermath of the harrowing ordeal. Faith. High above Gotham City, in the sanctum of Oracle's watchtower, Robin and Oracle awaited the arrival of Batman and James Gordon. Together, they struggled with the pressing mystery of the clandestine construction supplies infiltrating the city's borders, and the outside interest facilitating it. Meanwhile, on Jim's terrace, Batman and Jim stood face to face, a palpable tension filling the air. In the serene garden, they circled one another, words hanging unspoken between them. Finally, Batman broke the silence, prompting Jim to voice his grievances. Jim expressed his sense of abandonment during No Man's Land, lamenting Batman's absence and the perceived lack of respect shown toward him. Touched by Jim's accusations, Batman resolved to offer something in return. With a solemn gesture, he began to remove his cowl, intent on revealing his true identity to Gordon. In that way, Jim would understand what Bruce tried to accomplish in Washington. Yet, to Batman's surprise, Jim turned his head and closed his eyes, refusing the revelation. With a quiet dignity, Jim explained that if he truly wanted to know, he would have already discovered it, hinting at a deeper understanding between them. Batman put on his mask. He and Jim discussed their next steps, finding common ground in their commitment to work together. With plans set and agreements made, they parted ways. A silent understanding lingered between the friends. Curiosity. Previously, when Catwoman tried to sell the discs to Mercy, she was shot and left for dead. Even when the hard cases intervened, they were easily subdued by Mercy, and their entire team was incapacitated, except for Vin, their leader. However, it transpired that Catwoman had actually tried to peddle duplicate copies of the discs to Mercy, retaining the original. Drawing upon her resilience and invoking motivation from her past, she managed to survive and make her way to safety, swimming to a hideout she'd maintained since her days as a mayoral candidate. After patching herself up as best she could, she headed towards Gotham City to hand over the disc to Batman in Robinson Park. Meanwhile, Eddie of the Hard Cases alerted Vin to the possibility of Catwoman heading to Gotham. Catwoman commandeered one of the helicopters patrolling the city skies, coercing the pilot to fly her to Gotham despite her concealed agony. Shortly after, Nastasio arrived and similarly commandeered another chopper to pursue her to Gotham. Catalyst. Batman entrusted Azrael with a crucial task, keeping watch over the streets near Robinson Park, awaiting Catwoman's arrival, bearing the news that could alter the fate of No Man's Land. Azrael accepted the responsibility, pledging to safeguard Catwoman upon her arrival. Meanwhile, Catwoman's daring escape took a dangerous turn as she commandeered a helicopter from the US Marines, and Vin followed. The chaotic pursuit unfolded in the skies, with Catwoman thwarting the pilot's attempt to divert their course, determined to reach her destination. As Azrael prepared for Catwoman's arrival, Leslie cautioned him to minimize violence. Catwoman's journey ended abruptly as her stolen helicopter plummeted to the ground, leaving her injured and vulnerable. Vin descended upon the crash site, demanding the valuable discs from Catwoman. Yet, before conflict erupted, Azrael intervened, confronting Vin in a fierce battle of strength and skill. Meanwhile, Catwoman managed to deliver the discs to Batman, though her injuries spoke volumes of her sacrifice. Concerned for her well-being, Batman urged her to prioritize her recovery. At Leslie's medical center, Azrael took Vin after their clash. Leslie, ever dedicated, offered her expertise to both men. The outside interest. In his dimly lit hideout, the Joker's grin widened as he watched the news unfold, his eyes fixated on the screen. Reports from Washington, D.C. trickled in, detailing negotiations regarding the resurgence of Gotham City. Lucius Fox's voice echoed through the room, his words leaving the Joker intrigued yet unnerved, for there was still no definitive resolution in sight. Venturing to Oracle's watchtower, Batman sought counsel from Oracle, who unveiled a startling revelation. A vast quantity of construction materials silently funneled into Gotham's heart. Together, they discerned the orchestrator behind the scenes, the so-called outside interest, a revelation that chilled them to the core. Elsewhere in Gotham's underbelly, the Penguin extended his offer of protection to Mercy, only to be rebuffed. She already harbored allegiance to another, Bane. During discussions at the Gordons' residence and escalating tensions in Blue Boy's territory, Batman mobilized his allies to draw Joker out from his territory. A hope came into the light that NML would be lifted from Gotham as it was a PR disaster, and there were reports of worldwide unrest over Gotham, and someone was funneling a lot of money into Gotham. As Batman strategized with Jim Gordon, the Joker readied his malevolent forces, poised for a hellish showdown. Meanwhile, Robin's vigilant gaze tracked the movements of Bane and Mercy, alerting Oracle to their maneuvers as helicopters descended upon the city. In a pivotal moment, it was revealed that Mercy was orchestrating the city's reconstruction under the auspices of Lex Luthor. He was the outside interest, while Batman observed, poised to uncover the truth hidden within Lex's agenda. Hunted as Dick Grayson stirred from his slumber, he found himself tangled in the remnants of a dream where he soared through the skies alongside Barbara Gordon, clad in her Batgirl attire. Reality dawned upon him as he realized he was nestled within Barbara's sanctuary. She attended to his wounds post-battle at Blackgate Penitentiary, and upon regaining consciousness, she tenderly pressed a kiss to his forehead to gauge his fever before mentioning she'd prepared soup. Beyond the walls of the Gotham Clock Tower, Pettit's group plotted their infiltration, aiming to pilfer the secrets concealed within Oracle's file. Unbeknownst to them, traps laid by Oracle lurked in the shadows. As two unwitting members descended into the sewers, they fell prey to Oracle's ingenious defenses. Incapacitated by regurgitant gas and electroshocks, Barbara monitored her screens. As she and Dick shared a meal in a kitchen, a tentative air hung between them, laden with unspoken sentiments. Dick's implication that he could grow accustomed to their closeness prompted Barbara's hasty retreat to her computers, evading the conversation he sought. However, Dick's persistence led Barbara to unveil the depths of her struggle since losing her mobility. Tearfully, she confessed her need to relinquish the joys of the past in order to move forward, including her attachment to Dick. Moved by her vulnerability, Dick pledged his support, though their tender moment was interrupted by an alarm signaling danger. Outside, the armed assailants and their leader orchestrated a multi-pronged attack. Dick and Barbara's intimacy shattered by the intrusion of danger. Dick sprung into action, donning the Nightwing guise to confront the intruders. Chaos erupted within the tower as Huntress arrived, apparently an ally to Pettit, ready to take Nightwing in combat. Love is war. Pettit and his cadre of ex-law enforcement officers forcefully breached the fortified confines of Oracle's watchtower, with Huntress inexplicably aiding their cause. Nightwing and Barbara Gordon found themselves ensnared, their every move countered by the relentless assault of their adversaries. Huntress, her tone dripping with disdain, taunted Nightwing with the reminder of their past liaison, further fueling the tension. In a desperate bid for survival, Barbara uttered three cryptic words: Tyndale, Canseco, Wintergreen, triggering a blinding burst of light that momentarily incapacitated the intruders. Seizing the opportunity, Nightwing swiftly incapacitated several assailants before subduing Huntress and escorting Barbara to the safety of the watchtower's fortified chamber. Within the safe confines of the room, Barbara hurriedly activated the tower's defensive mechanisms, only to discover Nightwing's silence and fevered condition. As Nightwing reassured Barbara of his resolve to overcome their past indiscretions, Barbara sprung into action, activating the tower's traps to create a diversion for their escape. Pettit's desperation escalated into wanton violence. prompting Huntress to intervene. But violence was Pettit's drug. He shot a grenade that jeopardized their safety, plunging the watchtower into darkness and trapping Nightwing and Barbara in the bowels of the building. Understanding that she was helping the wrong cause, Huntress tried to put some reason into Pettit, but he was adamant and marked her as a part of the problem. Understanding that Pettit was losing his sanity, Huntress provided a momentary respite, allowing Nightwing and Barbara to flee to safety. However, her impulsive kiss to Nightwing sparked tension between the trio as they raced to escape Pettit's onslaught. With Huntress's guidance, Nightwing and Barbara hastily departed the watchtower, their future uncertain as they navigated the aftermath of Pettit's rampage. As Nightwing divulged his plans to seek counsel from Batman before returning to Bloodhaven, Barbara struggled with the complexities of their burgeoning relationship. Building blocks. At a grand press conference, Lex Luthor unveiled his ambitious plan to resurrect Gotham City with the aid of LexCorp and willing Gothamites. However, Batman, Robin, and Oracle harbored suspicions of Luthor's true intentions. Batman instructed Robin to monitor Pettit's territory, while Oracle kept a keen eye on media channels, deciphering that Lex wanted the control of Gotham. Meanwhile, Batman himself plotted a confrontation with Luthor. In the shadows of their hideout, Harley Quinn and the Joker lamented Batman's neglect of their antics, when suddenly, Harley proposed a scheme to elevate their profile. Elsewhere, Robin observed as Huntress vigilantly surveyed Pettit's domain from a towering rooftop. That night, Batman infiltrated Luthor's domain, incapacitating Mercy before confronting Luthor himself. After a stern warning, Batman departed, leaving Luthor to ponder his next move, which involved enlisting the formidable Bane. The following day, Batman consulted Lucius Fox about Luthor's potential encroachment on Wayne Enterprises, urging vigilance in safeguarding their assets. Meanwhile, Robin bore witness to Pettit's descent into rage. As tension simmered, Joker seized the moment, launching a brazen assault on the main reconstruction camp. The end is near. During the bustling reconstruction efforts led by Lex Luthor, Gotham City's revival seemed imminent, with the city's denizens eager to contribute to its restoration. Even the iconic Gotham Clock Tower found itself engulfed in the fervor. Barbara kept a vigilant gaze, monitoring both the laborers and Lex's movements. At Camp Lex, Mercy relayed the news of the Joker's disruptive attacks to Lex, who ordered swift action against the clown's antics. Meanwhile, Robin patrolled Pettit's territory, accompanied by Batman, their surveillance revealing tensions between Huntress and Pettit. Clearly understanding that Pettit was spiraling into instability, Batman suddenly departed, leaving Robin wondering about his mentor's next move. Elsewhere, Harley Quinn and the Joker's assault on a reconstruction camp was halted by the intervention of Bane. Facing off against the Joker, Bane's might prevailed, forcing Joker to retreat. In the shadows, Batman observed the showdown, soon confronting Bane himself. Their tense exchange revealed a deeper alliance between Lex and Bane, with Batman issuing an ultimatum for Bane to leave Gotham. Meanwhile, Barbara watched a talk show featuring survivors of No Man's Land, urging action to end the city's plight. As Penguin attempted to extort Luthor, Mercy swiftly dispatched his men, leaving Lex to assert his dominance. Yet, Joker's attacks had already highlighted Camp Lex's vulnerability. But then came the news from Washington, D.C. It brought hope as Lucius Fox announced the signing of an executive order. No Man's Land directive was being lifted. Wayne Enterprises' coalition with the U.S. government, the media manipulation by Batman and Oracle, and the media coverage of Jake Drake's plea for Tim's return had made all of these possible. Even Lex's involvement played a part. Gotham was opening on January 1st, and the heroes knew it was their responsibility to ready the city for its rebirth. Escape from Joker turf. In the darkened alleys of Gotham, Batman issued a solemn command to Azrael and Batgirl: infiltrate Joker's territory and guide its inhabitants to safety within the haven of the Blue Boy's domain, since Joker's turf was about to become a battlefield. Meanwhile, Oracle and Nightwing, guardians of the city's secrets, intercepted whispers from beyond Gotham's borders, a world where everyone wanted and pleaded for Gotham's revival. In the labyrinth of his twisted mind, the Joker sensed the stirrings of opposition. Suspecting Batman's clandestine maneuvers, he devised a plan. He enlisted a willing pawn to masquerade as Joker and gather intelligence from the unsuspecting masses. Azrael and Batgirl ventured into the heart of danger. As they urged the frightened denizens to flee, they came upon a building with the imposter Joker and his henchmen. The duo fought valiantly and subdued all of them, and found out that their foe was a mere imposter. They got back to their mission of talking to people and making them leave the to-be war zone. Yet, their triumph was short-lived as the real Joker seized a lost little girl, Cassie, and held her hostage. In a bold display of heroism, Azrael and Batgirl confronted the Joker. Azrael was still under the impression that he was facing the imposter Joker, so he threatened him to drop the act and the paint and the wig. The Joker was left dumbfounded by Azrael's words, so much that he forgot to unleash his henchmen on them. Without any fight, Azrael and Batgirl escorted Cassie back home, thankful that they didn't meet the real Joker. The Cat and the bird. Selina woke up from unconsciousness after having a bad dream about her recent mission. She found herself in Penguin's lair. Penguin had found her lying injured on one of the rooftops and brought her in and tended to her. The Penguin, seeking to capitalize on Selina's skills, implored her assistance against the encroaching threat of Lex Luthor. He wanted her to steal anything that she could from Luthor. She showed her a picture of Luthor and Mercy, who Selina remembered. She agreed to do the job. During surveillance, Catwoman recognized the need for allies. Reuniting with her former henchmen, Al, Lewis, and Mookie, she orchestrated a daring plan to infiltrate the enemy stronghold. Catwoman breached the compound's defenses, acquiring vital intel from different sections. Her target was set, the armored LexCorp battlesuits. However, her attempt faltered, triggering a confrontation with Luthor's guards. Activating the slave unit of the suits, Catwoman commandeered their suits. Security proved powerless against Catwoman and her control team. With a little help from Al and Lewis, Catwoman slipped away from the compound. At his hideout, Penguin welcomed Catwoman, who arrived with a dozen armored men laden with stolen goods from LexCorp, including heavy machinery. Impressed by her success, Penguin rewarded Catwoman with the freedom to take whatever she desired as payment. Arriving at the compound, Luthor seethed with rage at his team's failure. Mercy conveyed a call from Penguin to Luthor, wherein Penguin acknowledged Luthor's dominion over Gotham but demanded control of the city's underworld. Threatening further thefts by Catwoman, Penguin issued an ultimatum. After the call ended, Luthor instructed Mercy to dispose of Catwoman by any means necessary, a task she eagerly embraced. Payback's a cat, setting herself on a path for revenge against Luthor, who planned to take control of Gotham City through Lex Camp Constructions. Catwoman devised a plan. He let Mookie wear the lead guard suit and let him lead the other slave suits to all of Lex's construction sites. She caused all the suits to explode and destroy Lex Camp construction sites. Given Mookie's powers, he was left unscathed. Lex, enraged by Catwoman's actions, told Penguin to take care of her, and he could have Gotham Underworld. However, before Penguin and his goons could subdue her, she overcame them all. She destroyed Penguin's base of power. Then she turned to Batman for help. She wanted him to connect her to Deadman. Unstoppable as she was, Catwoman went ahead and disrupted Lex's operation in Gotham every way possible. So much that Lex had to strip his own ego in front of her and plead her to stop. Having her ego satisfied, Catwoman agreed to drop her disruptive actions in the drop of a hat. She created new passports for Al and Lewis and put $1 million there, and told them to move to the Cayman Island. She further revealed that Mookie was actually dead. He was killed while crewing for Joker. His soul just didn't want to move on. With Deadman's help, Mookie was guided to the afterlife. Finally, content after a long time, Catwoman jumped into the Gotham night. Angel Falls. Batman hurried to Oracle's watchtower to share the urgent intel from Huntress regarding Joker's despicable scheme. The villain had kidnapped babies from all over Gotham and wanted to kill every trace of lingering hope. Batman arranged a rendezvous with Commissioner Gordon at Central, while Oracle coordinated efforts with their allies. Meanwhile, at Leslie Tompkins' residence, Jean Paul contemplated the meaning of Christmas until Batgirl arrived, carrying a summons from Oracle to the watchtower. Jean Paul accompanied Batgirl on the journey as Azrael. Along the way, they bonded over their similar backgrounds as trained assassins. Azrael, touched by their connection, asked Batgirl to reveal her face. He was happy to see Cassandra's face when she unmasked. Upon arrival at the watchtower, Oracle briefed them on the mission to locate Joker and the abducted infants at Camplex. She then presented them with Christmas gifts, which puzzled Azrael and Batgirl, unaccustomed to the holiday. During their journey to Camplex, Batgirl offered Azrael her perfume, which he found pleasant. Azrael attempted to play the harmonica Batgirl had given him, initially struggling but eventually producing a beautiful melody. Impressed, Batgirl reciprocated with a mesmerizing dance as her gift to Azrael. Upon reaching Camplex, Azrael readied himself for action, donning his mask. They confronted Luthor's henchmen, easily defeating them. Inside, they encountered Mercy Graves, who urged them to leave. Azrael noticed the sinister decorations on the Christmas tree, recognizing them as traps. He shielded Batgirl and Mercy from the explosion, sustaining severe burns in the process. As paramedics tended to him, Jean Paul clutched an angel figurine saved from the tree. Upon awakening, Leslie informed him of the lives he'd saved. Despite his injuries, Jean Paul presented the angel to Batgirl as a token of friendship. Santa brings hope. As the sun rose on November 29th, Gotham City witnessed a massive influx of aid from the United States Army, Star Labs, Wayne Enterprises, and LexCorp. Their mission? To transform the desolate Gotham habitable by January 1st. In the effort of restoring Gotham, the scenario found itself inundated with people and resources, overwhelming but also offering hope for the city's revival. Despite the challenges, the combined efforts of these corporations succeeded in providing essential services and generating energy for the populace. But Joker was discontent with the city's reopening, scheming to disrupt the impending festivities with Harley Quinn in tow. As days passed, Gotham streets began to teem with life once more. buoyed by the aid pouring in from outside. Yet, Batman's vigilance remained unyielding, his concern growing as he realized the Joker had vanished without a trace. Instructing Oracle to monitor for any signs of the clown's activity, Batman made it his top priority to apprehend him. Elsewhere, within William Pettit's territory, tension simmered as Pettit's instability threatened to erupt. His increasingly erratic behavior sparked concern among his followers, culminating in a heated confrontation that Huntress and her allies intervened to prevent. Meanwhile, with the GCPD headquarters operational once more, James Gordon resumed his role as police commissioner, while Detective Montoya received a promotion for her past heroics. Despite Batman's interrogation of Gotham's criminals, the whereabouts of the Joker remained elusive. On December 24th, as Christmas Eve descended upon Gotham, its residents gathered for the traditional holiday dinner, each celebrating in their own way. Yet, from within that short-lived peace, chaos erupted as the Joker launched a deadly ambush on Pettit's refugee camp, plunging the city into darkness once more. I am Huntress. In the refugee center, Pettit and his men were enjoying their Christmas dinner when Joker and his army attacked. Joker, in his typical taunting manner, provoked Pettit to confront him. Fueled by rage and paranoia, Pettit armed himself and ordered his men to prepare for a showdown with the Joker. Despite Huntress's attempts to reason with him, Pettit remained stubborn, determined to take on the Joker head-on. Exiting the center, Pettit, accompanied by Foley and Huntress, ventured into the tense standoff. Inside, fear gripped the occupants as they watched the confrontation unfold. Armed with a sniper rifle, Pettit scanned the surroundings for any sign of the Joker, finally spotting him hiding in a nearby trench. With a single shot, Pettit took down the Joker, or so he thought. To his horror, the Joker reappeared, challenging Pettit to repeat his feat. As Pettit continued to shoot down the imposter Jokers, Huntress and Foley realized the grim truth. They were all Pettit's own men, manipulated and sacrificed by the Joker. Huntress asked Foley to seek assistance from the GCPD. Pettit ordered him to stop, and when he didn't, Pettit blew his brains out. Witnessing Pettit's unraveling, Huntress launched herself at him, determined to stop his madness. Before she could deliver the final blow, the Joker ruthlessly gunned down Pettit. With Pettit out of the picture, the Joker revealed his true intentions: to abduct the 4 babies from the center. Huntress stood her ground, refusing to let the Joker have his way. Despite Joker's warnings and overwhelming odds, Huntress valiantly fought off his henchmen one by one. Joker shot through her ribs, her shoulder, and her leg. Her strength waned as she slumped against a wall. Bloodied and weakened, Joker put his gun on her head, ready to blow her brains out. The killing joke. Huntress led at the feet of Joker, bleeding out profusely. Joker was ready to pull the trigger when Batman and Nightwing arrived at the scene. Batman incapacitated Joker and Harley, and even the bomb they planted at the center. But as Nightwing and Batman tended to Huntress, Joker and Harley escaped. Batman appreciated the bleeding Huntress solemnly and asked Nightwing to get her to Leslie's clinic. All the heroes gathered at Central and discussed a strategy on finding the Joker, who had kidnapped 36 infants from Gotham and had plans to kill them with 70 pounds of Semtex that he coveted from LexCorp. Just then, Joker taunted them from a nearby rooftop. His condition? Either Batman finds the babies or they die. Batman rushed after him. Meanwhile, Robin, Harvey, Montoya, Gordon, Sarah and Nightwing kept searching for the babies while facing multiple booby traps set up by Joker. During that chaos, Sarah broke her radio, and Gordon advised her to get one from the central GCPD building, as it was no time to lose communication. Meanwhile, Batman got hold of Joker and found out it was Harley in Joker's guise. When Batman coerced, Harley spilled that Joker had the babies hidden at Central. Batman radioed Oracle, and Oracle radioed everyone to rush towards Central. Hearing that, Gordon was left dumbfounded, as he just sent his wife Sarah there, without a radio and without any knowledge that Joker was there. Sarah went into the quiet building, bracing her gun forward. She found Joker with the babies. Joker held one baby at gunpoint, asking Sarah to throw a gun. He threw the baby toward her. Sarah threw her gun away and caught the baby. As she pacified the crying child in her arms, Joker pointed his pistol at Sarah's head, wished her Merry Christmas, and shot her in the head, point blank. It was morning outside. The heroes had arrived too late. Joker walked out and surrendered to Gordon. Bullock and Montoya broke the news about Sarah's death. Gordon pulled out his gun on Joker. Joker had kidnapped her daughter and killed his wife, and he wanted to end him. Batman grimly told Gordon that he won't stop him, but urged him to bring everyone back home. Gordon shot Joker in both knees and told the police to arrest him by the book. He then broke down crying in the arms of Batman. Robin returns. Jack Drake's efforts to bring back Tim had turned into a nationwide sensation. Despite the upheaval, Batman viewed this situation as an opportunity to instigate change in Gotham. Federal marshals arrived at Jack Drake's home with a plan to extract Tim from Gotham. Robin communicated with his father, coordinating the rescue operation with a marshal. Batman entrusted Batgirl with ensuring Tim's safe passage. As word spread about Tim's impending rescue, a local street gang saw a chance to loot the marshals for weapons and vehicles. Robin and Batgirl arrived early at the extraction site, scanning the surroundings for potential threats. Robin disguised himself as Tim Drake while they awaited the arrival of the helicopter. When the marshals descended to retrieve Tim, the street gang launched an assault. Batgirl intervened just in time, thwarting the gang's attempt to reach the helicopter. With Tim lifted to safety, Batgirl gracefully detached from the rope, landing with agility. As Tim reflected on his father's likely reaction, Batgirl remained in vigil, ensuring a smooth departure for the helicopter. The end. December 31st morning, the last day of the year, the last day of No Man's Land. All gathered at Sarah's funeral. The police grieved for their captain. The husband mourned for his wife, while the daughter grieved for never having called her mom. Lex and Batman came too and shared their condolence. Dick escorted Barbara out and promised to meet her at night. Later, Batman and Oracle discovered that Luthor had forged his name and bought 3/4 of all property in Gotham. Lucius Fox was appraised of the situation, but Batman knew that after hearing this from Fox's mouth, Luthor would try to kill him. In the afternoon, Gordon grieved alone at Sarah's wake while her colleagues remembered her. Robin came back and met Nightwing, and they exchanged words of hope. Evening came and Luthor threw a grand opening party to Gotham City. Everyone attended, but Fox went to meet Luthor alone while Batman stayed in vigil. Dick came to meet Barbara, but she stalled him instead, not being in the mood. Meanwhile, Fox told Luthor that he knew about his frauds and warned him to stop, or else he'll involve the press. As Fox left, Luthor ordered Mercy to finish him, but Batman broke through the door, incapacitating Mercy. He lifted Luthor up and threatened him to return to Metropolis right then, stating that Gotham was not for sale. It was 1 minute to midnight. Dick met with Huntress at Leslie's Center. He gave her a bouquet and kissed her right at midnight. The new year had arrived. Gordon shared a drink at Sarah's grave while humming Auld Lang Syne. Batman too stood in front of his parents' grave, solemnly wishing them in his heart. The city erupted in bright lights as he looked up. They had won. Gotham had won. Marvelous verdict. That ends our magnus opus, the tragic odyssey of Gotham and its heroes. The story began with a massive loss and also ended with many, but Gotham and its residents persevered through this ordeal. They lost much, but gained hope and strength in the end. Thanks to our channel crew from Long Reads, who covered this cataclysm from the heart of Gotham. We made it through. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, for it didn't kill us, it only made us stronger.